Councilwoman Estimé Irvin,
Present.
Vice Mayor Desilme,
Here.
Councilwoman Keys,
Here.
Mayor Bieneme.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum to proceed.
Thank you very much. First of all, we're going to have our invocation with Imam Mikal T. Amim Masjid Al-Ansal for our invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance with Detective Benjamin Dolly from the North Miami Police Department.
Thank you for having us, Mr. Mayor, councilwomen, and councilmen. It is with great pleasure that we give this invocation this evening here at the city of North Miami. With the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, thee do we worship, thine aid we seek. Show us the straight way upon those whom thou hast bestowed thy grace, and who go not astray. Guide this council this evening with the consciousness of delivering services for this great city by which they preside. Thank you.
Thank you. A pledge of allegiance.
Place your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. City Manager, do you have any addition, deletion, or amendment to the agenda?
Yes, sir. At this time, I would like to remove tab B completely from the agenda. I will bring the item back next council meeting. I would ask that you add tab E1 to the agenda.
What do you mean, add it?
Which is a resolution for Black History Month.
Oh, just moving it up from the regular to the consent.
No, I'm just adding it to the agenda. It wasn't published initially, so
Oh,
this
okay.
is the right place to officially add it to the agenda.
Okay, it's tab E1.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I would also like to,
It's gonna be part of the consent.
No,
No,
it's not
sir,
gonna be
that's, since it's an add-on, it's gonna require a vote. It's a supermajority vote to add on any item.
Okay. You don't need a supermajority to add the item. You need 4 votes to add it?
Yes, sir, per your charter.
Motion to add.
Second.
I have a motion made by Councilwoman Keys to add the item at tab E1. The item was seconded by Councilman Galvin. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item passes 5-0.
also, Mr. Mayor, I would like to have tab G heard before tab F. They are companion items. I just would like the architectural engineering firm, and the design
G
firm
before F.
G before F. They'll do a presentation that will be for both items. I just
Okay.
would rather the presentation come before the other item is heard. And that's it for me, sir.
That's it. Mr. City Attorney, is the agenda set?
Yes, Mayor, the agenda is set. You may proceed.
You know, something extremely important for the city of North Miami and for the entire country is the 2020 census. And I think it's extremely important in a way that we may lose money from the state, maybe the county or the federal government if we're not counted. And tonight we have the pleasure of having with us the chair of the county commission. We have Commissioner Esteban El Bovo Jr. is the chair of Miami-Dade County Census Task Force. You know, Commissioner Bovo was first elected in 2011. In 2016, he was appointed as the chair of the county commission, and he's been a commissioner in Miami-Dade County since 2011. Now he's the chair of the advisory board for Miami-Dade County Census Task Force. And thank you for coming tonight and give us an update on the census, and happy to see you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and I apologize if I'm turning my back to you. It's
Yes.
a little awkward, not sure which way I should be looking.
It's more important to address
Very
the
well.
audience,
So-
and that's fine.
So no disrespect.
Whatever you please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and City Council and all dignitaries for allowing me to be here. As I told one of your council members a little bit earlier, I come in peace and I come in a friendly posture. And the county wants to congratulate the efforts of the city as it prepares itself for Census 2020. Perhaps the most important thing that we could do as U.S. citizens and residents of this great nation is to participate in the census. And the impact of our participation will be experienced over a 10-year period, where funding sources that are tied to education, healthcare, transportation, housing are all really based on how much population do you have in your community. So as the chairman, or the former chair of the Census Task Force and now the county's liaison, and also as appointed by Governor DeSantis on the statewide census, what we've been doing is encouraging cities to create their own census committees, their own census advisory groups, and to start working in the community. And I want to thank really the city of North Miami for not only showing leadership in this issue. From very, very early on when we started having conversations, they have been engaging their community. And this is extremely important. The council and the mayor have taken this very important. And obviously, what we'd like is for those in our community, the Little League coaches, those in clergy, the ballet teacher, to also spread the word amongst their constituencies. They are trusted voices and faces in our community that will help those that may perhaps fear participating in the census. And I just want to remind folks that not only is this impact important from a financial standpoint for our communities, but also we stand to perhaps gain 2 seats in Congress, although the way things been going on in Washington, maybe that's not a good idea, but I digress. I think it's extremely important that we all allow ourselves to be counted. The county is ready to not only support your efforts here in the city, we're also ready in our website. There is a lot of downloadable information that you could use to tailor your own census outreach. The county will also be providing and opening all its public libraries so that the computers are available for those that would like to be able to have access. Because one new wrinkle in the census this year is that it will be available online or through our smartphones and our apps. So that's a little bit different, but we know that not everybody has computer access. So the county, along with the school board and the universities, are going to be making their libraries available. And if I might, Mr. Mayor, I want to congratulate not just for your efforts on the census, but I know that today you'll be also deliberating on creating of a youth commission. And I want to let you know that is extremely important. In the county, Commissioner Barbara Jordan had the foresight and the vision of creating a youth commission. And it really is a great way to empower young people to communicate with us on what could be sometimes blind spots on issues concerning our community. So I congratulate you all for that consideration. And I'm available for any questions, although I think you guys are taking this in the right direction, and we truly appreciate it on behalf of the county.
Do you have any question on the dais? Go and answer.
I don't have any question, but I thank you, Commissioner Bovo, for the information that you provided. Thank you for energizing Miami-Dade County as a whole to take the census very seriously. I appreciate that. Thank you for your kind words.
Thank you. We all got to get counted, that's for sure.
When officially we're going to start?
Well, we've in essence have already started the drumbeat, and as I've told the task force members that this should be getting louder and louder, but I think there are a couple of dates we should all keep in mind are critically important. On March 12th is when we will start receiving a prong, so to speak, or an indicator to go ahead and start going to your computers and start filling out the information. You don't have to wait until April 1st, which is the official census day. You can begin immediately. So as of March 12th, we would hope that everyone starts filling out their census information. As I said earlier, it's going to be by computer. If you have not done it by April 1st, the Census Bureau will send a reminder to folks sometime in mid-April that if you haven't done it, hey, please go ahead and do so. And that reminder may come attached with a long form. Folks can still fill it out the same way we did it 10 years ago, which basically is a form. And you could also do it via phone. If that still hasn't energized you, you're busy, things are going on, you haven't filled out the census, please take note that census takers will begin knocking on your door come the month of May. So we want to avoid you having someone knock on your door. So let's avoid the knock. Let's fill out the census before that, and the hope is that the census will wrap up all its operations by the end of June, July, so that we could go ahead and do the official count. Something to remember, that in the last census go-around, Miami-Dade County participated at a 74%. That meant we left 26% of our residents unaccounted for, and my friends, we left millions and millions of dollars on the table. So it's critically important that we focus our energies here. There is no citizenship question. The information is protected. The president, the Congress, no government agency has access to the information for 72 years. What the government is interested in is just the simple data. How many people are in a community, what their ages are, so we can measure long-term how we fund projects. So I have forgotten that as part of my presentation, so now I got it in.
You have another question, Vice Mayor? Okay.
No, not a question, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Commissioner Bovos, for being here today. North Miami, as you said, we are as ready as we can, and I think we have one of the best plans in the county as one of the cities that's going to ensure that all of our residents are counted and do what we do. We're not as close as the county last time, but we are shooting for 100% this time. So hopefully this will be it. Thank you, sir.
That is the hope.
What would be the deadline to send the applications?
The deadline for census normally would be sometime around the end of May.
Okay.
Although census operators are going to be in our community for those that have not filled it out. And so it's important that once we get it, we participate and get it over with quickly. I've seen the sample questions. There's nothing that requires Social Security. There's nothing in there that I would deem dangerous as far as participating. It's name, level of education, how many people in your home, ages, those kind of things. One thing to please take note, and it's something that we want to be mindful of, is that because many know that the census is coming, there's already been some movement of people mailing things that say census on it and may ask for personal information. Just beware. The census has not officially sent out anything to anybody, and that won't happen until March 12th. And Mr. Mayor and Council, you'll all be invited March 12th, and we will host at the county a press conference, which is the first official date where now we are beginning the census and the process of answering the census question. So you will all be invited to that so that you could speak to your community, and we want to show a united front across the board in Miami-Dade County how critically important this is, and hopefully with a collected effort, and I'm sure we get to 100, but we have set a goal of trying to get to 90%, and if we do that, then we did a heck of a job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. And now city announcement and events.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff, North Miami neighbors and guests. My name is Unicia Baker, and I'm the Senior Public Information Officer, and I'm delighted to share some of our upcoming city programs, events, and initiatives with you. The City of North Miami is now accepting Golden Passport applications for qualified seniors and Social Security beneficiaries to ride the Metro Rail and the Metro Bus at no cost year-round. To sign up, visit the City of North Miami's Customer Service Center on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday from 9 a.m. until 2 p.m. Need help filing your taxes? The AARP Foundation provides free tax return preparations for low and moderate income taxpayers and seniors at the North Miami Public Library every Thursday beginning February 6th from 10:30 a.m. until 2:30 p.m. Assistance will be available through April 9th. Excuse me. The North Miami Police Department invites you to the Joe Celestine Center for a badge pinning and swearing in ceremony tomorrow, Wednesday, February 12th at 10 a.m. Light refreshments will follow. The 2020 Black History Month celebration continues Saturday, February 15th from 2 to 5 p.m. The North Miami Public Library and the Miami Oratorial Society celebrate Black History Month with Spirit 2. This free concert, which includes gospel, spiritual, and classical choir music directed by Andrew Anderson, and it will also feature the Tim Watson Jazz Band. Mayor Philippe Bien-Aimé invites all North Miami residents ages 55 and older to Seniors Movie Night at 6 p.m. Saturday, February 22nd at the Joe Celestine Center. At no cost, seniors will enjoy a screening of the John Semi film God's Will, La Volonté de Dieu. There will also be refreshments and musical entertainment. Space is limited, so please call the Office of the Mayor and Council to RSVP. Friday, February 28th at 7 p.m., join us at the Joe Celestine Center for Know Me Honors and Appreciation of Business and Community Leaders. This once-a-year event is cultivated to honor South Florida's brightest business and community leaders who are making an impact locally and beyond within their specific industries. RSVP is required. Please visit knowmehonors.eventbrite.com to reserve your ticket. Jazz at Mocha will take place Friday, February 28th at 8 p.m. in the Mocha Plaza. Nicole Yarling will take the stage for the Black History Month Jazz at Mocha concert series. Enjoy her unique sound, which combines voice, violin, and fiddle. This event will take place rain or shine. The March for Education will make its way to North Miami on Saturday, February 29th at 8 a.m. in the Mocha Plaza. Join us as we raise awareness and celebrate education. This spirited event for parents, teachers, and students offers a variety of local resources and programs created and designed to help the community. Supporters of education will march in solidarity from Mocha Plaza to North Miami's Irons Manor Fountain. Register at www.marchforeducation2020.eventbrite.com. Applications for the 2020 Leaders in Training program are now available online at northmiamifl.gov/LIT. Applications are due by 5 p.m. Friday, March 6, 2020. The LIT program is for teens interested in building a professional resume. Contact or visit the Community Planning and Development Department for more details. The month of February will conclude with the return of Nomi Fest. The 5th annual Nomi Fest will take place at Cagney Park on Saturday, February 29th. This year's headliner is CeeLo Green. The concert will also feature performances by Adina Howard, Sunshine Anderson, and Tanier. Plus, Kevin Little was recently added to the lineup to bring a little island flair. Early bird tickets are now on sale for just $10 at nomifest.com. Proceeds from ticket sales support the City of North Miami's Water Utility Bill Assistance Program, benefiting residents in financial distress. North Miami's 2020 Black History Month celebration will conclude with the wrap-up, the official Nomi Fest after party at the Nomi Red Garden. This event will feature appearances by some of your favorite old school recording artists. For updates and tickets, please visit nomifest.com. Stay up to date with the latest happenings in the City of North Miami by visiting northmiamifl.gov. Then click Connect with Nomi on the homepage where you can sign up to receive our monthly newsletter. Residents may also like the City of North Miami on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And this concludes today's announcements.
Thank you very much. And now first quarterly budget and financial presentation by Budget Director Woslyn Ray Morgan and Finance Director Miguel Augustine.
Good evening. This is a report on the fiscal year 2020 first quarter revenue and expenditures. and it's going to include a funds overview and specifically information on the general fund and our other funds, which include the enterprise fund, the special revenue, transportation, and internal service and debt service funds. Okay, this next slide provides information on the adopted budget and the budget as amended as of December 31st, 2019. The adopted budget was approximately $179 million. And as of December 31st, we did amendments totaling $26.6 million. And those amendments included $10.9 million in purchase orders, $10.9 million in purchase orders that were encumbered in the previous year, and since all of the funds weren't spent, we just moved it forward to the next year. Another $2.4 million in reductions, and $18.1 million of funds remaining in last year's budgets for capital projects which were not completed. Capital projects are normally multi-year projects that are completed anywhere from 1 to 5 years. So that money was moved forward. And another small amount of $50,000 in unexpended grant funds. All of these dollars are fully funded, and because they weren't used in the previous years, we just basically moved them over to the next year. Okay, and this next slide gives you a breakdown of the general fund revenues. You have your property taxes, other taxes, licenses and permits, and so on. And again, the total general fund budget is $72.6 million. And as of December 31st, the first quarter, we had realized $24.5 million in revenues. Our property taxes, in that first quarter, we received 79% of the property taxes, and that's generally because during November, most people, in order to realize that 4% discount on their taxes, they pay them in advance of the March 31st deadline. Also, if your property is mortgaged and you have it and your taxes and insurance are escrowed, your mortgage companies are required to take advantage of that 4% for you. So, and as I explained to some of you during the briefing, the first quarter is not really an accurate measure of how we're going to do during the course of the year. You really need to get into your second quarter before you can see where things are headed. And when we do our next second quarter report for you, we will include estimates as to what we're going to spend by the end of the year, and in terms of the revenue also. Okay. This next slide is a breakdown of the general fund budget by department. Okay, and again, that's $72.6 million. Most of the departments, generally in the first quarter, we say that if you're 10% below or 10% above, that's not really a big issue, because there are a lot of things that are going on in the first quarter. You're making annual payments, you're making a full year's payment within that first quarter, or there are other things that you purchase for the full cost in the first quarter. So it's not, like I said, it's not really that critical. Most of the departments are basically in line with the 10% below and the 10% above, with the exception of the police department. And the reason for that is because they have our pension costs for our defined pension benefit plan. We're required to make that payment on October 1st. And the police department's portion of that is about $5.4 million. And so that's the basic reason why they exceed the threshold that we noted. The next slide, we talk about our enterprise funds. There are three currently. There's water and sewer, the water fire flow demand, and the stormwater account. So the revenues sort of, they're not, because of the way our collections are in the first quarter, they're billed at different times. Like the quarterly billings are done in October, November, and December. So again, looking at the revenues versus the expenditures, as we go forward and look at the second quarterly report, these numbers will improve. Next is our special revenue funds. And those funds include our federal grants, state grants, our CRA money, and some miscellaneous grants, and also police grants. The federal grants are reimbursable, so we have to spend the money first before we're reimbursed. And the SHIP grants, which is the State Housing Initiative grant, that grant, we normally receive the money in advance. However, we book it as deferred revenue because we can't recognize it until we have expenditures to record against them. And then we have our transportation funds. Our transportation funds, that consists of the half-cent surtax that we get from the county. And that amount, it sort of, it lags. The county is normally sometimes 1 to 2 to 3 months behind in sending us our payments. But we do get everything by the end of the year. We are made whole. And then we have our local option gas tax. And then there are our internal service funds. That's our fleet management and risk management divisions. Those two divisions are funded by departments, and a portion of the funds are allocated to each department. And what we do is that money is transferred on a quarterly basis. And however, the amount for the first and second quarter will take place in the second quarter, as we didn't realize them here on the revenues. But we do have expenses. But it's important to point out that the budget that's here, the $13.1 million, all of that money will be realized by both of those divisions. And basically for risk management, it's the funds that they get covers the cost of the premiums, the administrative charges of a third party and a third-party administrator, and any claims that we may have. And the fleet management is basically for departments are charged for their use of vehicles and maintenance of the vehicles and the use of our motor pool. And then finally, there's our pension loan repayment. That was a pension bond, I believe it was taken out in 2010, 2011, and a pro rata amount is allocated to each of the departments. So that money comes back in and is transferred over to our debt service, and the finance department makes the payments on those. And that's it. Do you have any questions? That's it.
Do you want us to save our questions for after everybody, or?
Or you want to hear from finance?
I have questions on the budget.
After that, you will have question on the finance?
Not really, just on the budget.
Okay. Good, let's start with the budget.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Mr.
Sorry.
Mayor,
Yes.
If we may, can we let, after both, if you don't mind, could we do after both
Okay.
presentations, we answer the questions? Thank you, sir.
That's it. Okay, so Miguel Augustin, Finance Director. Today I'll present the first quarter balances for the cash balances as well as the investments as of 12/31/2019. Okay, So as of December, the first slide here presents the balances as of 12/31/2019 for the cash as well as the investments compared to the prior quarter end, which was September 30th, 2019. So the daily investment account, which is the city's operating account, had a balance of 30,687,502 as of December 31st. That balance was 23 million as of September 30th, 2019. The reason for the increase is that in November, December, we start getting our property taxes from the county. So that's the major increase for why the balances are higher than the previous quarter. The other accounts, the utility deposit account, is used to record the deposits that we collect from various customers in the utility department. So when people open up accounts, they make deposits. When they leave or they close out their accounts, we pay out the deposit. So that account is usually about the same 2.3 million. That just varies slightly because of additions and subtractions of new customers. The other accounts, the flexible spending accounts, those are accounts tied to third-party administrators for the flexible spending, flexible benefits, the AFLACs and so on. When people put in claims, they draw from those accounts, but those balances are relatively small. Okay, so then the lockbox account at Wells Fargo is where customers make payments. When people make payments by mail, they go to this Wells Fargo account. It's essentially a zero balance account because once money is deposited in here, it is transferred over to the operating account. So any balance that's in there at the point in time that the statements are presented, which is in this case 12/31 and 9/30, are just the balances in transit between the lockbox account and the main operating account. The Corvell account is an account used by a third-party administrator for risk management. That's where claims are paid out of, like health claims and so on. So we fund that account to be able to present when the employees have claims or health claims and so on. Those are paid out of that account, and we fund that as needed. So the balance that's in the account is based on the what's in the pipeline in terms of claims from the third-party administrator. So if they're aware that there are going to be a large number of claims coming up, they will ask for the funding up front so that they can have the funds to be able to make the payments. So the balances, the variance between the balances from one quarter to the next is just a function of that. Then we have the City National Landfill account, which is at 12/31 was 8.1 million. That account is used to remediate the Solomia site. If you recall, previously this money was provided by the county to fund the remediation activities at the site. So as remediation actions or remediation activity is presented to the city, that money is spent and paid. Well, that money is spent to pay the consultants who provide the remediation services. Okay, so next is an escrow account that for $7 million that was approved by the council back in April of last year. That is the city's contribution to the Cagney Park project. It's partially funded by the city as well as the school board. The $7 million here represents our contribution, $5 million of which was our fronting of the monies we expect to collect from the county from the Rux Park allocation from the 2004 Building Better Neighborhoods grant from the county. So those funds are not available for operations. They're strictly restricted to fund the activities for the Cagney Park project. The investments are primarily represented by a few CDs. We have 3 CDs and an account with the Florida Prime. That balance is 8.7 million. So 6.7 million. Sorry, 6.7 million. And that balance is just an amount of money that we have, just excess cash that we have invested with Florida Prime. So that presents the balances as of the fourth quarter, or as the fourth quarter of 2019 as well, 2019, that's right, and the first quarter of 2020. Now, to provide some context, I've provided balances as of the first quarters of 12/31/2019 versus 18 versus 17. And the one glaring item that pops out is the daily investment account and how the balance has reduced over time. So the long story short is that it's a function of the inflows into the account not exceeding the outflows. In other words, spend more than we take in. So over the past 3 years, there are a number of expenditures that were not expected. For example, the $7 million that I spoke about with the Cagney Park, that $7 million is part of the reason the balance is not where it historically is. We've also had increased salary costs over the years, where it's contributed to expenditures increasing over time. Another reason for the increases as well, or outflows, are the pension costs. The contributions to the pension plans, both the Claire T. Sigerman and the police plan, over the past 2 years have been higher than they have been in the past. We expect those to come down as the plans are closed, but there was some increases as a result of actuarially determined calculations of what was needed to fund the plan. And of course, you also have to remember, there were also some expenditures from Hurricane Irma that were not anticipated, or could not be anticipated. So those we expect to collect some of the monies from FEMA. We spent to the tune of 6.5 million, but we expect to collect about 4.7 million. It has been obligated by the state, but we have just not collected it as yet. Another factor which affected the cash outflows versus inflows actually results from the way things were done with the budget. So there were a couple of items in the past few years that were a couple of revenue streams that were expected to be collected, which were not. And we had expenditures in anticipation of those collections. And as a result, we had an operating deficit in a couple of years. So over time, when you have operating deficits, you're spending more than you're taking in, and that affects your cash balance eventually. So the cautionary tale is just we need to do something about the expenditures, and we also have to do something about the intake. So there's a revenue question and there's an expenditure question. So I'll take any questions after.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, just to, and Miguel did hint on it, the Cagney Park that he's speaking of, the $7 million that went into escrow, remember 2 million of it was the money that we were responsible for putting in. The other 5 million, we basically put in and loaning ourselves the money until we get the 5 million back from the county. We have put in that request for the 5 million from the county. As far as salaries, that Miguel hinted to, the salaries have been rising from contractual obligations through the 3 unions that we do have. the commitment to those negotiations, those past negotiation ends after next fiscal year. So we do have one more year of increases, and then those end. As he stated, we have closed the pension, the previous North Miami pension has been closed, and we are recognizing savings from it, and we will continue to recognize savings with the pension plan being closed and us doing FRS. And then again, the FEMA, as Miguel said, we spent out about $6 million unanticipated expense, and we're anticipating bringing in about $4.7 million in refunds from FEMA. With that being said,
We cannot file any claims with our insurance.
I think we've pretty much done everything that we can do with FEMA. I know we were going back to review some of the stuff that was denied, and we're going to be submitting the papers again and working with the people, the company that we had, H2O, that helped us with our reimbursement claims. So we will follow up with them on some of those costs.
That's when we did not have insurance?
Well, we're self-insured.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Mayor, quick question, just for clarifying, Mr. Manager. You mentioned the pension is a big, transferring from the pension to FRS, but we must clarify 700 employees from current and former are still on the pension side. So the FRS is a portion of, some of us who, kind of gone over. So I just wanted to
Yes.
to state that we do have about 700 employees that's remain on the pension side.
Total.
Yeah.
And all new employees are, for the last 2 years, are FRS employees.
How many employees are on the pension plan who no longer work for the city?
That's a
About-
lot, yeah.
I don't have that number, sir.
Huh?
I don't have that number right now.
A lot.
A lot.
Yep.
Thank you.
About 400.
How do we start with questions? So we're gonna ask Carol, you wanna start?
Yeah, I think you answered the questions on the finance portion. What is the status of getting the $5 million from the county for Cagney?
We've sent in the request. We will be following up with the request, but we have sent the request. We've made the request here in this very meeting in the past. But we have submitted a new request that I'm reaching out to them now.
Have we followed up with Commissioner Monestein's office? Because I speak to him, and he said, just call Elizabeth. So are we following up with her?
I will reach out to
She
them.
said
I
the
was
money
more
is
reaching
there
out
and
on
ready to go.
the staff level.
We're
but-
still
Okay.
dealing with that money issue?
From what I understand is the process that takes some time.
It's
It's
the
not
process.
it's not at the political level that it's administrative regulation that need to be followed before you can get the money, if I'm not mistaken.
And that's what we're doing. We're following up on the administrative side now.
Carol, you-
Okay. Yeah, I have questions on there are questions, requests on the budget, so, if Rosalind, you could come up, because I've been asking for a few things, but knowing we were having the budget discussion, went back online to review it. And I have requested that, whether it's online or that I receive a breakdown of the budget. Back in September, August, we got books like this with the budget. I believe this report was actually, this PDF of this was actually online during August and September. So I went back to look for it, because since it's not on, the budget right now is the kind of budget you would give to an investor, but not someone who wants to see what's really going on. It doesn't have any breakdowns. So I went back and I thought, well, at least I'll look at the PDF from the meetings. Those PDFs are not online. So they need to come back up from the two the two budget meetings. We need the initial PDF and the change PDF, please. So I'm asking for a breakdown of that budget. We've got line items with massive numbers with no backup. Not blaming you, but we need to be able to get that. The final budget, at the budget hearing, we had a $700,000 special events line item that was broken down to about 20 events. We all voted to reduced the amount of special events to 400,000. I know we still had a couple 100,000 in police. If you go to the budget now, the website still shows, in addition to salary of 136,000 there and 15,000 a vehicle, it's still showing $500,000 for special events. That number really needs to be 400,000.
We'll make the correction.
And then there is a, I have, that's on, it's like on page 1 I have it here. There's one line item in the budget right now that's about $321,000 for one event. It seems like it's only describing the Martin Luther King event, but that really has to be all the various Haitian Heritage, Black History Month, Hispanic Heritage. We had cultural events. All our events, they need to be listed so everybody knows what we have for those events. And right now we just have a 320 lump sum, which is probably a little bit high. So this is just the public. We're looking, and we have a book like that. We make a lot of comments during our meeting. We have numbers going this way and that way. I'm waiting for a final budget, but the final budget online is not what I want to look at.
Okay.
Super Bowl events are not part of the budget this year. There's a place where it talks about all the different items that came up and expenses for the Super Bowl. We had 4 days. There are certain numbers in there that possibly should go back over to the CRA, but there's numbers on the CRA that I haven't seen, should probably come back into, it's not budget item, but should come back into the Super Bowl expense. Some of the expenses, checks written out, don't seem to conform to the contracts that I've seen. I want to see, clarification on the obligations of the promoters. So I'm requesting, and I believe staff is going to be giving us a complete report when you finalize all the expenditures, checks, money coming in, recoupment, so I won't even go there. One little thing we talked about, but nothing was said tonight at the CRA. The CRA gave a grant to the city for $2.5 million for housing. And looking on the budget, it's not called housing, it's called social services. And we're talking about moving it back to CRA, but we need to either clean up and change that. It is not social services, it's not allowed to be social services. It must be for housing assistance. So we either need to change it in the budget, or we need to get it back over to the CRA like we were talking, so.
And Councilwoman, if I may, through the mayor, the social services, during the budget process, we moved social service and housing together as a standalone department. So that's why it comes off as social services. However, we did, I believe the transfer has already been made to put the $2.5 million back to the CRA. That was just a way for us to do it. So we've already made that transfer to put the housing money back, and all of the grant money will be spent through the CRA.
But that line item for $2.5 million, I think it was line 500. That really needs to change the heading because it was not social services. It was housing. So it was on the budget. Even though we're giving it back, we can amend the budget to show that we gave it back or whatever. We don't need to amend the budget. We give the money back. It's not, we're not spent, but it needs to be clarified that it was a housing assistant.
The money is, the $2.5 million is for housing. As a matter of fact, we spent two portions of that money, and it was grants from the CRA. CRA spent the money, some of that money on the side already.
And the only thing that happened there, sir, if I may, is just the accounting and how the accounts are listed by name. And that's why I came under social services, but we will address it, Councilwoman, and get it cleaned up. No problem.
So also in social services, this is what I'm talking about, there is a line item for social services, $651,591. Period. End of story. I really would like to know where that money's going and what it's allocated to. And on another note, I've been getting a lot of calls from residents, different parts of the city, that there is going to be a cruise coming out of our, that the seniors, this Golden Seniors program is going to be taking about 80 people on.
We taking question on the budget.
This is part of this is a question for the budget.
It's not,
Excuse me, this is my
in our
question.
presentation, okay.
I'm talking to the budget director and the manager, this is budget discussion, and so I'm getting calls on a cruise, which is about a $35,000 expense, so my question is, where is it in the budget, and do we have this in the budget?
Can you just
So that's all my question is this cruise in our budget, do we have the money for it?
This
And-
Budget, wait.
So I just
And
want, so
do you
this
have
is part
a,
of the budget.
do you have a request for cruise? Madam?
It's my understanding that there's a fundraiser going on to raise funds outside of the city for the,
It's not a part of your budget?
no, it's
Okay,
not.
okay.
Well, that's
It's
what
not
I'm saying.
included.
Well, if it's not part of the budget, then the city is not going to be spending money for a cruise, or are we?
As,
I mean,
as
these-
as I said,
Mhm.
they're in the process of raising funds outside of the city privately to fund it.
Okay, so then the city is not paying for a cruise?
Oh
It's
my
not coming
God.
out of the silver,
No, it's not.
okay. Because I understood that we were, having to come up with money for a cruise, so I just, and, I mean, I've
No.
got people coming to me, oh, I'm going on a cruise, and people are calling me, so just want to know if it's in the budget. I want to let people know that that's out there.
Okay.
I'm asking for them. Okay, and basically, that's all I have. I can't ask any further questions until I can review the budget. I appreciate your review. That was a good presentation. But I would also like to review the budget to see where we ended up from last September. I haven't seen, I know you did your budget, but I need to see a breakdown so we can see where all this money is actually allocated to. Please.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Scott.
Thank you. I just want to let everybody know that when there is a cruise for seniors set up, I better get an invitation.
I'm the only one old enough here to go.
It depends on how you define. I've got an AARP card, so My questions, Mr. Mayor, through you to Miguel, through the manager to Miguel. You had mentioned that the only part of your review that you found to be glaring, and that was your word, glaring, was unexpected expenditures. And we've talked about Cagney Park.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned salary increases for staff. Some of that was union contracts. Can you break
correct.
that down a little bit more for me specifically? What's the overall dollar amount of salary increases, if you know it right now? And then what percentages union contracts and what percentages might have been something else?
Okay, so I did an analysis looking at the 941 tax returns that we file every quarter. For 2017, total salary costs, salaries and wages was 27 million. For 2018, it was 31 million. And for 2019, it was 33 million. So these increases, the increase from 2000, okay, so there was a 13% increase from 17 to 18, and an 8% increase from 18 to 19. So that essentially accounts for the COLA, the cost of living adjustments that everyone receives across the board, as well as merit increases people receive. That's 5%. So essentially a 7% increase for staff each year.
So let's just take 2019, for example. If salary increases for 2019 were 33 million, what were the overall salary increases? Because all of what you just named, well, no, you're right. Not everything you
Yeah.
just named was union contracts.
Right.
So you think that the 33
Police.
million for, yeah, and you'll never get me questioning anything that the police get. So you're saying 33 million is the dollar amount for salary increases?
For salaries in general, just
Okay.
total salaries. And of course, the taxes as well. I didn't really talk about the taxes because
Okay.
when the salaries go up, the taxes go up as well.
You mentioned pension costs.
Mhm.
Is any of that related to the ERIP program we instituted a couple years ago?
No, not necessarily. It's really just, so the actuaries look at the retirees as well as the active members, and they look at the actuarial calculations of how much they expect to pay in benefits to everyone over their entire expected life. So just depending on the demographics of the members and the retirees, that varies, as well as the results from operations from the market, because that also plays a part. If we have a really strong result from the market, then that will help reduce the city's contribution. So if there's if the results of operations or results from the market are not as expected, then the city has to make up the difference. So,
And then the last question I have, because the FEMA issue is pretty straightforward. You mentioned there was an issue with revenues not collected. What are the revenues not collected?
well, specifically, in 2018's budget, there was a line item for $3 million that was supposed to be for a result of a land sale that we expected to close, but that never happened.
Which land sale was that? I'm sorry.
I think it was a
Solomia?
Solomia land sale, yes, sir.
Correct. So
We
it was
bud-
included as an expected revenue, and it was used to balance the budget.
Right.
So if it didn't materialize and the expenditures were made in anticipation of that coming in, but it didn't happen, so therefore that resulted in a
Okay.
excess.
Is that the only revenues not collected that you're letting us know about, or
That's the one that's the most,
the biggest one?
the biggest one, exactly. And
Okay.
we have like variations between different line items, different revenues that were either underperformed or, but essentially that was the major one.
Okay. And so I'm doing some quick math here. Back to the pension costs for just a minute. What were the overall pension costs totaled at?
The contributions,
Yes, the pension costs that you mentioned.
okay, so in 2017, the contribution, I don't know if you want it broken down, the Clarity Sigerman contribution was 4.9. For the police pension plan, it was 3.8. So in 2017, the fiscal year 2017, the total pension contribution was 8.8 million. In 2018, it went up to 9.165. In 2019, it went to 10.4 million. But then in 2020, which is last October, it went back down to 8.8. So we expect it to keep coming down just because.
And yeah, this is what happened. You know, we allowed a lot of longtime city employees to retire several years ago through the ERIP program, which made us basically have to cash out a lot of pensions all at the same time. And now that that's balancing back out, what was a costly expenditure in letting people retire is being lessened. So I'm just gonna go with 9 million for that. It looks like, I'm doing some, like I said, some quick math, 9, 18, 51. Looks like 58 million would be our total overall unexpected expenditures, and correct me if I'm wrong. We certainly will see 5 million come back from Cagney, 5 million come back from the county, FEMA, 5
Right.
million for Cagney, 5 million from FEMA,
FEMA TUI,
and then, sorry?
2 point something,
4.7.
2 point something.
Yeah, I
It
just-
was 6.4, we received
6
4.7, something
4.7,
like that.
No,
right,
we
so
haven't
I'm-
received that yet. It's what
Yeah,
we
yeah.
expect to
Well, we
collect.
should, right.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm just trying to get an overall snapshot and then break it down to what we know is coming back. Okay, so we're gonna see approximately 5 million from the county for Cagney Park,
Mhm.
approximately 5 million from FEMA for the hurricane. And then the revenues not collected, the 3 million. Well, we're about to
Solomia.
sell that same land for
Right.
20 million, give or take, no, 10
Well,
million.
10.
10 million. So 10 5, with 5, that's 20. And a lot of the pension costs otherwise were things we can't avoid, you know, COLAs, merit pay, et cetera. So the question I'm gonna be asked tomorrow is, what did we unexpectedly spend that we might be screwed for? Sorry, that's layman's terms.
I think the only funds that we won't recoup, that we're anticipating recoup, would be the extra money through the FEMA, that extra almost
That's
$2 million, whatever $1 million. I think that's the only money that we are not anticipating recouping.
So yeah, you're looking at a little bit less than 2 million from FEMA. And I'm glad we spent that money because residents wanted their streets cleaned. I mean, after that storm, they were like, well, there's garbage, what's going on? So looks like things are perhaps not as dire as some would have me believe, because most of this we're either going to recoup or we had to spend anyway because it was contractually bound, merit pay, etc.
Police
But-
increase.
And then we've got Solomia sales coming up too, that's gonna help, so.
Right,
All right,
but-
thank you, I'm sorry I got so technical, everybody.
Okay. Vice
Yes.
Mayor, this one.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple of questions real quick for Ms. Morgan. In reference to on page, I remember during the budget process, I went over it and I had several questions, if you recall, Ms. Morgan, in our briefing and as well as in public in reference to some of the line items. And this morning when you briefed me, there was some, not a lot, but I just wanted to ask the first question. I know the first quarter, we have 3 quarters or 4?
4.
4. So, oh God, okay, I thought it was 3. So the first quarter usually not a good picture in snapshot as far as where we're gonna end at the end of the quarter in September.
Right, it's generally not a, it's generally not what you use to try to estimate where you're gonna be at the end of the year. You start doing, well, at least I do, I start doing my estimates of the revenues and expenditures in the second quarter.
So in April,
What page are you referring to?
not any page specifically yet, I'm
Okay.
just saying, so in April, when we have the second quarter, presentation, that would kind of show us where we're gonna be in reference to
Yes, yes.
a
And-
snapshot.
Right, as I stated earlier when I was going over the report, the second quarter report will include additional information, and that is what we estimate to bring in terms of revenue and what we estimate our expenditures to be.
Got it.
At September 30th, of 2020.
2020. And based on your professional opinion, us being at 31% thus far is not unusual from your professional opinion.
Well, again, we're talking about the first quarter,
Okay.
and there are a number, it's subjective because there are a number of factors that you have to consider. You have where we make that a one-time payment, which is normally spread out over quarters, but you make the one-time payment, that affects your percentage, or you don't, you purchase something on a one-time basis. There's just a number of factors that are involved. So you really don't really get a good grasp of it until you look at the second quarter, and more importantly, the third quarter. Yes. So as we bring each quarterly report back to you, our numbers will be updated.
Thank you, ma'am. In our last budget, I know a lot of the items were presented to us being vague, and I did ask, for some detail, and some of them were not. Either they had the wrong account or the wrong departments, specifically when we were doing line by line, going through the budget line by line, and which is something that I've always recommended in doing because you catch a lot of these errors or however that you want to you want to say it. And a lot of them were presented just like that and they were passed. Specifically on page 6, in reference to the expenditure category, the reserve. So the first quarter, 6%, 373,000 were used from the reserve. I did ask you during briefing, or the manager, if I could get what those expenditure are and what is the requirement. Is it at the council, not the council, the city manager purview in reference to using funds from there? Or is it something here that was brought through resolution? And then I have another follow-up for the attorney after that question.
Okay, the $373,000, that is actually the payment that we made for our pension loan obligation, and that was the general fund portion only. Because of the way and it's sort of technical, and we'll fix that for next year. It's because of the way the account is coded. It's coded, that account is considered a 910 account. So normally when you have a pension obligation, you dump all of that money into a reserve and then it's paid out. So, and that money is what comes from the departments, each of the departments. So that is the general fund portion.
I understand. My question is, in your report, it says reserve 373. So
Right.
Is that a mistake? This was supposed to be coded from general fund, or it's actually money that was taken from the reserve to pay that item?
Okay. Again, the general obligation, that's the pension loan obligation. That is money, that's money that we allocate throughout the different departments. And that allocation is based on the previous year's salaries budget. Okay. And that money is basically transferred from the departments, and that's the expenditure.
If I may, Mr. Councilman, there's the reserve account, and as Ms. Morgan did state, the pension obligation bond does get paid out of the 910 account, which is a reserve account. But what she's saying, there's a centralized place that we pay it. If we were trying to pay it out of the general fund, it would be $5,000 from mayor council's office, $10,000 from city manager's office, $70,000 from personnel, and it would go in all these different accounts. Instead, and the money's budgeted in all those accounts. If you go through the budget, you'll see 9, 10 items in every department. So basically, when it's time to make the pension payment at the beginning of the year, we do a one-time centralized payment to the pension. So the money's it's no extra money we're spending. The other money will come from the 9, 10 accounts from all the other departments. It's just being coded right there when they pay the bill, sir.
So, Ms. Morgan, can we say that's a problem, that the 910 account need to be a separate account, or coded under general fund reserve or something?
And moving forward, we could change the account where we pay it out of. That's not an issue at all. We could move it to any account to pay it out of.
Because it just doesn't look when it says 3 something, and I don't know if that's something.
Understandable.
The question, Mr. Attorney, thank you so much, Ms. Morgan. Mr. Attorney, my question, Miguel, I did have a question, but I can't think of it right now. Mr. Attorney, my question to you, and this will be my last question, Mr. Mayor, in reference to the first paragraph in this memo, this 10-page memo, what does this say in reference to the city manager is authorized to implement budget amendments, appropriation, and unapproved fund as required during the fiscal year? Yeah, is that a policy, or is that a legal? So what does that?
That's the language that you approve in the budget when you pass the budget annually, sir.
So what does that mean? Because I wanted to get a clarification from you during briefing, but I think you had already left. So what does that mean, really?
Well, you pass a budget, but the manager runs the day-to-day activities of the city, and so if he needs to move money appropriately, he moves the money appropriately.
If I could add to that, sir, and the reason it's put in, at the very beginning of the budget presentation, You saw the budget was about $176 million, and then the amended budget went to $206 million. Instead of coming to the board, and these are all that increase of about $28 million is from items that weren't completed last year. We move over into this year. If there are amendments throughout the year or programming that we're gonna do, we're not gonna spend $500 on a widget. We're gonna spend $400 on a widget, and we could use that $100 to transfer somewhere else to use it. That's all it's saying. It keeps us within the budget, but we have the authority to move the money around, and that's what it's saying. The extra $28 million is money that carried over from last year, and then other revenues increase. After we do this sale on, the proposed sale on Solomia, the money, that $206 million will move to $226 million in a matter of 3 weeks once the sale of Solomia changes, because we would have received then an additional $20 million. So that's basically what it does, yes.
Well, we need to find a way how it's more, I think it's a lot going towards the city manager and someone who does not understand budget like most of us. It just simply say whatever that we pass up here, and that's what I'm trying to get clarified. If we pass a budget, is that what the city manager is authorized? That's the first question. So does this ordinance says that the city manager could add to the budget that we pass, because that would defeat the purpose of us passing a budget, or that's my question now, and I don't know if I'm getting the answer to that. Is I understand amendment. If you're saying within the budget that we pass up here, the parameter that we have set forth, that I understand. However, the way it's being read or understood, at least from this, it's something that I think the council need to.
Well, if I may again, sir, the $28 million that the budget amended to is what you approved last year.
I'm not talking about the amended amount or budget. I'm just saying in principle. It says that the manager has the authority to move, to amend, which we all understand. However, the way the statement is written is like the manager could add or do something that's so drastic without our approval, or decided, to do something that none of us. It's after we like, wait a minute, what just happened here? So we that's my question.
It's limited by the 25,000.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I think I'm done.
So I just want to, a lot of the questions that I had are asked and answered, but one of the things that I want to go back to is the Cagney part. So you said that you've made a request through the commissioner's office. Can we get a report on, and I understand that some of it may be an administrative level. Can we get a report of when the potential of us getting this $5 million? Is it possible that we can get this $5 million before the end of this fiscal year? So could we have that in the next, your results or finding in the next council meeting, please?
Yes.
And then also, I'd like to know the 4.7, can we also, is there any way that we can find out if we're also going to receive those dollars before?
For FEMA?
Yes.
Yes.
And so those are.
They already sent a letter, said this is how much you're gonna
And can
receive.
you also report to us again next council meeting? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, you said something I didn't hear?
No, as far as the FEMA, they already sent official letter, say this is how much you're gonna receive, and it been in the paper and everything.
Yeah,
It's just the process to receive the money.
Right, and so I'm just trying to figure out,
We'll look into
when
it and determine.
what date, when can we expect that so we
I'll
can
provide
plug
both
in
of those at the
those
next meeting.
holes? And that's all my questions.
Mr. Mayor, one last question. There was I think in talking to the budget director and the finance director, there is something that they mentioned which I thought we need to make sure next time we're going to bargain, that either one of these professional, if not both, are on this negotiation team, because these are folks who are implementing whatever that's coming out of these negotiations, and they're not. Lastly, I just want to point out, in reference to the senior cruise, it's me. If anybody have any questions or any concern, as a matter of fact, somebody did call me a resident, and I very directly told that person what I was doing and where the money was coming from, so they decided not to believe me. So moving forward, please don't call me if you're gonna ask me something and you're not gonna believe what I said. I did make it very clear to them I am raising money and asked if they wanted to donate, but obviously that was not that direction. So Councilwoman Keys or anybody up here, if you have any question in reference to that, you could have the residents or whichever directed at me reference to that. And we're not using city funds, and that was something that's been in discuss almost a year and a half in reference to that. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I also, what the Vice Mayor said about being at the negotiating table, I thought that was really important. I remember that in our briefing. So I just wanted to just have an understanding. Right now, how does that occur? So when we are negotiating these contracts, who's at the table?
It's the personnel director, and normally the city manager or designee, and that's it. And one of the attorneys. We have an outside attorney, a labor attorney.
Labor attorney.
What I will say, it has been past practice for either the budget director or the finance director to be in. I think in the last meetings, Mr. Spring, as the city manager, was our previous finance director, so he did have a pulse on the finances during these negotiations. So with him being gone, we'll make sure that either Miguel or
Right.
Ms. Rosalind is
Or
at the
both,
table.
no?
Or both.
Right, wouldn't they have different perspective on
Yes.
it? Thanks.
Thank you very much. Are we done with questions regarding the budget? Thank you very much. And now can I get a motion on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
And clerk?
Unless a member of the city council wishes to remove a specific item
Aye.
from this portion of the agenda, tab A and tabs
I need to
C
say
through
something,
E
please.
constitute the consent agenda. These resolutions and items are self-explanatory and are not expected to require additional review or discussion. These items will be recorded as individually numbered resolutions adopted unanimously by the following motion: that the consent agenda comprised of tab A and tabs C through E be adopted. I have a motion made by Councilman Desilme to approve the consent agenda. The motion was seconded by Councilman Galvin. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Before,
All opposed?
Yes.
may I please, I forgot to mention, I'd like to be listed as a co-sponsor for tabs B, D, and E, which is a part of the consented agenda. That's all that I wanted to.
We
Get in.
removed
We
B.
removed tab B.
I'm sorry,
Remove
did I
it.
say B? I meant to say C. C, D, and E. I apologize if I said B.
Why didn't the,
Yeah, I'd just like to be a co-sponsor to
of
this
what
item.
tab?
Tab
D,
C,
and E.
D, and E.
C, that's the grant from the administration.
Yes, and I'd like to be a sponsor to that as well, a co-sponsor.
'Cause that's a grant by the city every year. CD and what's that's the VOCA. That's,
I-
okay.
If we may, I know Councilwoman wants to pull the items to be added.
No, I don't want to
Oh,
pull the
you
items.
just want to add yourself as
wanna-
co-sponsor?
Just, right,
Okay.
that's it. No pulling of any items, I'm sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item passes with a 5-0 vote.
Tab EI.
Tab E1, proposed resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, recognizing the month of February as Black History Month, providing for an effective date and for all other purposes. Tab E1.
Motion to approve.
Second.
What?
Oh, sorry.
Can you use your mic, please?
Can you give us an explanation? Well,
This is just simply in recognition of February being Black History Month, I'd like for the city to just have a resolution in honor of that. It's plain and simple.
Public hearing is open on E1. Public hearing is now closed. Any question on the dais? No. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Yes, sir.
I have a motion made by Vice Mayor Desilme to approve the item at tab E1. The motion was seconded by Councilwoman Estime Irvin. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The item passes with a 5-0 vote. Tab G. Proposed resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of North Miami, Florida, authorizing the interim city manager to execute an agreement with Bermelo, Ajamil, and Partners, Inc. to provide architectural and engineering services for the Cagney Park project in an amount not to exceed $1,195,000 in accordance with the terms, conditions, and specifications contained in request for qualifications number 33-18-19, providing for an effective date and for all other purposes. This item was pulled from January 28th, 2020 council meeting. Tab G.
Good evening, council members. For the record, Alberto Estrada, Purchasing Director. The item that you have before you under tab G represents staff's requests for your approval of the final terms and conditions negotiated with the architectural firm Bermelo, Ajamil, and Partners Incorporated to provide architectural engineering services for the Cagney Park Recreational Complex project. As reflected in the council report, which was submitted in support of this item, on September the 10th, the council commissioned Bermelo Ajamil as the project architect for Cagney Park, and also authorized staff to finalize negotiations with the firm for the planning, design, bidding, support, and construction administration services for the development of this project. The item that you have before you represents the culmination of these negotiations. Here with me tonight is Mr. Randy Hollingsworth, and he's a principal with Bermelo Ajamil and was their lead representative throughout these negotiations. And he has prepared a presentation which will highlight the most significant components of this project, as well as to provide you with an overview of the firm's experience with these similar type of projects. Mr. Hollingsworth.
The one that's black. It's green. Yeah. That one.
I'm not a big fan, so forward is up.
Forward's up. Good evening, Mayor, council members. As I was introduced, I'm Randy Hollingworth. I'm with the firm of Bermelo Ajamil. I am the director of the Planning, Landscape Architecture, and Urban Design Department with the company and a partner with the firm. And very happy to be here tonight after we've gone through an extensive negotiation with the city over the past several months to get to a point where we can all agree that our work moving forward will be an incredibly successful park for the city, and a great team effort working with the city staff has been really a great experience for us, and getting to know the staff before we've even started the project. And I think that's a really good movement forward on this project. I want to introduce the company just briefly, just to show you some of the work we've done. And they're presently handing out a copy of this presentation. So you're going to see the same thing in the booklet that's being handed out in the presentation tonight.
Thank you.
There. Okay. Now that I got it straight. As I said, we're going to show you a brief summary of our company's work. We are a multidisciplinary firm. We're working in countries around the world right now, in Dubai, Singapore, South America, Central America, throughout the Caribbean, the United States. We offer a wide range of services, but on this team that we've assembled for Cagney Park, we have a full team of consultants working with us. In addition to our own in-house architecture, landscape architecture, and engineering services, we have specialty in pool consultant, geotechnical, and structural engineering and electrical engineering. So the team for the Cagney Park is much more than just Bermelo Ajamil that you are looking for as this contract moves forward. We have a very strong sort of philosophy that the integration of landscape and architecture are critical to the success of projects like this. And Bermeo Jamil has done many projects over the past 10 years, a total of about 23 parks and recreation projects which we've designed and been built throughout South Florida and throughout many areas of the United States. So we really have an extensive experience in park design, recreation facility design, and facilities like that are programmed for the Cagney Park project. One of the most important parts of when I kind of talk about this is the fact that we are really creating places for people. Recreation is a part of that, community involvement is part of that, but the success of these projects results from being able to create a place that the community can enjoy and feel like it's a part of its own community, and that's very, very important for us. The firm itself has developed multiple recreation facilities, recreation complexes. A few of these, for example, in Hollandale Beach. After completing the citywide parks master plan, the firm was hired to do the city's first 3 neighborhood parks, one of them being the B.F. James Park, where we did a swimming pool facility, recreation facility for the city. We, in addition, designed all of the components of that park. As you can see here, the finished product. The project was built and completed within about a year and a half of when we did that work. In addition to 2 other parks in the city of Hollandale Beach, very close by. These are some of the images of the pool facility that we designed, working with the city staff and working on our team of consultants. We've also just recently completed the Miami Springs Aquatic Center, which is very successful, which was an existing pool the city decided to remove and bring in this new sort of multi-purpose pool with a splash pad and recreation facility in the swimming pool itself. And this shows you some of the pictures of the finished product. It certainly looks not like your typical city swimming pool. We really worked hard to make it look almost like a club for the citizens, and it's really, really popular in the city of Miami Springs. The Sullivan Park in Deerfield Beach is a project that opened about a year ago. It's a project that I've been involved with for many years, almost 5 years in the making to develop this park for the city. And it included an interactive water feature and a waterfront on the intercoastal, a large interactive water feature which actually, when the water is gone, turns into a 50-foot diameter art installation, which has about 3 million pieces of ceramic to create this art piece that was developed working with the high schools locally in the community. These are some of the scenes of the park at nighttime completed. It has also won some awards recently for the design of the park. Truman Waterfront Park was recently completed. Phase 1 is about a $23 million park in Key West. It's on the Truman Waterfront adjacent to the Naval Base, and we developed the full design for this park, and now the Phase 1, which is about 2/3 of the park area, is now completed. Here you can see some of the pictures, interactive water feature, sports fields, and a whole new road system through the park, as it's quite large. The site is quite large. This shows the future community center, recreation center that they're going to build in the park. A park that we're working on right now in Doral is across from City Hall. It's the new Doral Cultural Center, which is being as an expansion of the city's Central Park in downtown Doral, right across from City Hall. We designed this new building which integrates so well with the landscape that in plan you can hardly tell there's a building there. It's a very dramatic structure. The big oval you see on the left is the existing park, where they have a big sort of a rock structure as their stage, and we're expanding that into a new piece of land with a new cultural center to the east. And you can see here, this is a blow-up of the actual culture center, which the landscape actually comes up on the building. It turns at nighttime into seating area for the amphitheater, the outside areas of the building. Here you see some of the renderings we prepared to show what the building looks like. They wanted a very dramatic piece of architecture, and I think they're going to get it. We're in the construction drawing phases of that project right now. The Cagney Park site, very, very interesting site. You know, you have some very interesting dynamics around the site with the roadway system, the neighborhood to the north and east, which is a very strong residential neighborhood that we need to be very mindful of as we develop this design. The roadway system, you have the very heavy use of the northeast 135th Street. That's a very important part of access to the park and how the park relates to the rest of the city and not just the community. We've been to the site, we took pictures of all of the different areas and understand pretty well, we're not as into the site as we are going to certainly be over the next year working on design drawings, but I think we're getting to know the site very well and the dynamics of the site. As I said, there's a program has been developed for the project that we are under the contract with the city to develop this program. Basically, it's going to be an Olympic swimming pool, a warm-up pool. We'll have a maintenance facility. We'll have a multi-purpose synthetic field, which will be shared with the adjacent schools. We have the children's multi-age playground. There will be a splash pad in addition. There will be an expansion of the parking to 80 parking spaces along 135th Street. There will be fencing in appropriate locations for security of the park, and there will be covered pavilions in the open green spaces, and the incorporation where possible of public art. And that's basically the summary program. There's a lot of other components such as landscaping, sidewalks, benches, all the elements that go in a park. These are the major components that we're focused on developing as part of the program. We've developed a very schematic idea of what those pieces are and where they may go. We have not done schematic design. We haven't designed the development of the park at all yet, but I was asked to prepare something to kind of show the council and mayor what the different elements were and some imagery of what that may look like. And we will design everything custom to this community, custom to this park, so we're not taking anything from anywhere else. This is just to show you some ideas of the different components. For example, the Olympic pool and warm-up pool. These are pools that have been designed by the aquatics company that we have on our team. They've done an incredible number of swimming pools, so they are really the experts in designing Olympic pools, warm-up pools, and splash pads. Along with our firm has done numerous of them as well. The warm-up pool will also be part of the program, so there's an Olympic pool and a warm-up pool adjacent to that. The multi-age playground, that will be a facility that allows different kids at different ages to get involved with the playground equipment, and none of that has been designed yet. We haven't picked the type of fixtures or anything, but we'll work with the city where possible using facilities or different types of resources that you already do in other parks. We'll try to use those in Cagney as well to make it as efficient as possible for the city. The multi-purpose field will be a very large field, not dedicated to a specific sport. It's a synthetic field area that will allow a wide range of activities from cheerleading exercises to pickup sports to all different types of events for the neighborhood, for the school board, and really a great amenity for the park itself. Sorry, I keep pushing the up button, it's not the right one. The recreation center, it may not be located exactly in this location, but these are some of the recreation centers that Bermeo Jamil has designed. We've done everything from just restrooms to full recreation centers, so this will be a recreation center that facilitates the Olympic pool with change rooms, restrooms, probably a small number of offices to manage the building and things like that. So there will be a recreation center building in the park itself. Also, as I said before, there's a parking that will probably be located along the south side, basically because that's where the access to the park will be from the general public that are driving, as opposed to walking possibly from the community to the north and to the east. And also we'll have a large play area in the northeast corner of the site that relates really to the neighborhood. And that may have picnic pavilions where the community can come and enjoy the park on weekends and have a whole types of activities that can occur in that area of the park. Following this, we also have involved on the team a public relations firm who will be doing a complete outreach program for the city, working with us under our contract, and we have a lot of experience with this because we really believe it's important that we get buy-in from the community. This is a community park, and the community has to feel it's their park. That is going to make it successful from a whole wide range of areas, from security to maintenance. When a community feels like it's their park, it's a whole different attitude towards it, and it's not just a city park. So I think reaching out to the community, letting them understand how we're developing the design, letting them know what the phases of construction are, because that does have a big impact on a community when you start construction and trucks and things like that, and the possibility of interrupting traffic into a neighborhood. That's going to be part of our outreach program, working with the community throughout the entire design and construction phase of the project. And with that, thank you very much. If you have any questions.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, if I may add, and when Randy did go through the summary program, we have, through our negotiations with Bromello, we did address everything that we needed to address with our agreement with the school board. There are certain things that needed to be in place. The multipurpose field had to be in place. There are certain elements that we had to have in place. And I think that's what I know it took us a while to get through the negotiations, but it was trying to get to that right price point and to include everything that, was a must that had to be approved through the bond and the agreement with the school board. So all of that was taking place, and I'd like to thank the staff for their hard work and us finally getting this done and getting it, on the agenda today.
And don't forget to add the county logo.
I will make sure that we add the county logo and the school board logo, sir.
No, the school board is there. Remember, the county request that.
No problem, sir.
Since,
Mr. Mayor?
yes.
Through you to the manager, can we ask that this same presentation be made to our Parks Commission? I get a lot of questions from them about what's going on, and this should have gone definitely to them at the same time it was coming to us.
I will make sure we get one done for the Park Commission, sir.
Do you have any question, Carol? Do you have
No, it's beautiful. Excellent.
a question?
Thank you so much for the presentation. Looking to see what designs you come up with, and just looking forward to working with you within our community. Thank you.
Vice Mayor? No. Now let's open it to the public. Public hearing is open on the item.
William Prevotel, 11950 North Bayshore Drive. Certainly this is a project, an endeavor that will be supported by the entire council. And I think the entire city will be looking forward to this. What I'd ask, though, is it possible to inquire whether there might be a chance of raising the plane of the park for a number of reasons. What the cost would be, and it's really a matter of a couple phone calls, of what it would be to raise it 1, possibly 2 feet above the existing sidewalks. What does that do? For usage, it starts to get people up above the cars, and you're not just in the park area looking out towards the traffic all around you. So it feels like you're elevated, and it's a little bit more enlivening experience. Another point would be that with a pool particularly, if we start to get flooding in that area, you don't really want the pool to become sort of a cesspool of that area. I know drainage will be developed in such round, but if we start to get extreme flooding and rising sea levels, that will be a concern. So you have aquatic features. Would it be nice to lift those up a little bit and not have to worry about things draining into them, but rather draining away? And last of all, if we could get that raised up, I think it would act as a sort of a point of refuge. You have 9 acres that surrounding community of many, many blocks. If they should get flooded, inundated, that can be a staging area for emergency services, for people to recoup themselves, for whatever it might be. We're talking about just a foot or 2 of fill. Doesn't really change a lot structurally for any of these components. Might make some things actually easier. Might make actually the plantings and stuff a little bit easier rather than digging into the typically hard ground and rock that we have. So if that could be looked into, I think it might benefit our community in a multitude of ways. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sarah McDevitt, 14490 Northeast 10th Avenue. Here, obviously, to support us going forward with his plans. I know that Parks and everybody in the city has been working hard to arrive at a moment where we can approve plans and move forward. It's really exciting. I'm also really happy in the presentation to see that a community outreach is set up. I absolutely am here to advocate for the community in that area. We need another outreach. It's been so many years since we last had an outreach, and we need to get people involved, make sure people in our community get a chance to speak on what it is they want to see in the park. You know, there's a lot of things that we have to have in the park, but let's hear from the community and make sure that our voices, people who live in the area, can talk about what they really want to see and do in the park that is going to be ours for many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Public hearing is still open. Public hearing is now closed. Can I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion made by Councilman Galvin to approve the item at tab G. The motion was seconded by Councilwoman Estime Irvin. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item passes with a 5-0 vote. Tab F, proposed resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, authorizing the interim city manager to execute an agreement with Thornton Construction Company, Inc. to provide pre-construction services for the Cagney Park project in an amount not to exceed $69,593 in accordance with the terms, conditions, and specifications contained in request for qualifications number 32-18-19, providing for an effective date and for all other purposes. This item was pulled from the January 28, 2020 council meeting, tab F.
Once again, for the record, Alberto Estrada, Purchasing Director. The item that you have before you under tab F is the companion item to tab G. This is the selection and finalization of a contract with the contractor who is going to actually build this project. The project is going to be delivered through what is referred to as a construction management at risk contract. The contractor, Thornton Construction Company Incorporated, was also selected and commissioned by the council on September the 10th last year at the same meeting as Bermejo. So we have finalized a contract for them to provide services which are referred to as pre-construction services. In other words, this is the services that they're going to provide throughout the design and development of this project, and they include things such as value engineering, constructability analysis, cost estimating, et cetera. Also, as part of the services that Thornton Construction is going to provide, they understand the importance of good corporate partnership, so they are committed to providing local workforce opportunities for subcontractors, vendors, for jobs and job training for this project in the community of City of North Miami. They will be providing to us a plan of action regarding this, and I have here with me, if you want to ask him any questions, the Executive Vice President of Thornton Construction, Mr. Dagoberto Diaz, in the event that you have any questions. Ultimately, what will happen is, upon conclusion of the design, we will come back to this council with the actual construction contract for the execution of the project itself. Also here in support of this contract is the Parks Director, Mr. Derek Corker, as well as the capital projects, the city's capital project manager, Mr. Jefferson Geimer, who's been very instrumental in finalizing both of these contracts and very helpful. So if you have any questions, certainly I'll be glad to take them.
Thank you very much. Let's open it to the public. Public hearing is open on tab F. Public hearing is now closed. Do you have any question on the dais?
I do.
Yes.
When
We close public hearing. Okay, you can come. It's about the construct. It's the same. Oh.
Hello, sorry. It took me a while to.
It's regarding tab F, right?
Yes. Tab
Okay.
F.
Okay.
Yes. 30 Northeast, 135th Street.
Your name,
I have
please?
2 questions that maybe they can help with explaining. Is when the contractors and the suppliers are bidding for the project, Will there be local resident and vendor employment? And if yes, who will be the person responsible for I guess,
Can you
disseminating the
state your
information?
name and
Oh, yes.
your name?
Yes, Valerie. Yes, 30 Northeast 135th Street.
Can you state your full name?
Valerie Kazat, sorry.
Thank you. Your question, public hearings, go ahead.
Oh,
We're gonna open it at once. He's gonna answer all the questions.
Yeah, we
together.
don't answer each question as we go.
yes.
We let
You
everybody
can have a
ask the
seat and then
questions
after,
and then-
yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Margaret Anglin, and my question is, I just wanted, as a small business woman-owned company, I'm an electrical contractor, and I wanted to know what process will be placed in the construction of this to make sure that small and local businesses are, have an opportunity, and what will be the tool that will be used to measure such,
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Now, can anyone want to answer the question? Estrada, okay. Yes.
Good evening. My name is Dagoberto Diaz. I'm the Executive Vice President for Torrent Construction. On behalf of our company, we want to thank you, first of all, for selecting us for this exciting project. To answer the two questions that the two individuals have asked, I'll take the electrical subcontractor. As it relates to the subcontractor participation or the local participation, we do several things. First of all, we do a workshop, we do outreach, and we advertise in order to have individuals come. And it's basically an open forum. What we do is we explain what the project is, what the requirements are in order to bid the project. And consequently, after that, we continue doing that through the entire design phase. So there will not be a surprise when the project is put out to bid and obviously solicit subcontractors. So that, and obviously our goal is to have a full participation of local vendors. We understand how important it is to the community, and we made a commitment in order to do local workforce. The young lady that asked the question as it relates to what kind of involvement does it relate to individuals or hiring of individuals. One of the requirements that we're going to be placing in our subcontractor requirements, and that's going to be in the bid solicitation, that they are required to hire local vendors, but more importantly, that they are required to provide training. And when I talk about training, we're talking about vocational training in order to allow local individuals that, for example, has an interest of electrical, mechanical, plumbing, welding, etc., in order to participate. In addition to that, and we already started this, we are doing two things that are a little bit special. First, you have a school right across the park, as you all know. And what we're doing is, and we, when we did our presentation, we guaranteed this, we want to bring a paid internship. An individual that is a local, obviously, student, has to be a high school student, needless to say, and an individual that is interested in engineering or construction. What we're going to do with this individual is that he's going to come as part of our team, and that's going to be a paid internship. Hopefully, that individual will move up into a construction management degree or an engineering degree. In addition to that, we're also looking at talking to, obviously, to the high school again, in order to do field trips, in order for individuals that are, there's such a thing as called an ACE program, which are students that are interested in engineering and construction, in order for them to get a feel of what construction is about. And our team will introduce them at different phases of the project so they could see and learn construction as well. So those are the type of things that we're doing. Hopefully that answer the questions that were posed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any question on the dais?
Yes. No problem.
I apologize.
Thank you so much for sharing
No
that
problem.
information. With the internship that you're doing, do you know how soon are you going to be doing that?
So as soon as let's take a step back. Now we're going through the design phase,
Okay.
obviously. So when we start construction, or months before we start construction, then we'll bring the intern in play. The reason being is that individual will learn what the bidding process works, and then therefore go through the construction process.
Actually, my first question, just when you stated that, I got excited for the youth. But my first question is, when are we anticipating that the design will be done?
That I'll pass it over to the architect.
Please, thank you. You might as well stand there too, because I'm sure I have questions for you.
Good evening, Jeff Geimer, Capital Project Manager for the City of North Miami.
I have the summary schedule. It's in draft form, so I'll just highlight a couple of the items for you.
Okay.
We're looking at schematic design being completed in April of this year. And then construction documents, we're going to start the construction documents at the end of June, early July. And that phase is going to last us about 2.5 to 3 months. Then once that's completed, then we'll move on to bidding things out and construction.
Okay. So in April, we should be expecting to have a presentation on the design. I just want to make sure I understand that correctly.
Based on the current schedule, we're looking at the end of April, schematic design should be completed, yes.
Okay, what could interfere with that not being completed in April?
We are still working on environmental on the site. We inherited some stuff from the school board, and we need to make sure what's out there on the site and what remediation is required.
And where are we with that? Meaning, go ahead, Mr.
Just to take a step back, there were documents that we discovered later that the school board had been informed that there were some environmental issues at the site. When we did get those documents and we unearthed those documents, we did reach out to the school board and ask them, have they addressed those items? And also, well, as you know, we used the site as a landfill during the hurricane time. So we did have to go back and evaluate the site after the hurricane, and everything was fine at the site after the hurricane. So we're doing that evaluation to see if us checking for that, but they don't check for all the same things. But we've already reached out, and I've had a conversation with the mayor on, we may go the political route to address some of our concerns, but we're giving the staff their time to rectify the problem. If
Okay,
not,
so this is another request to have an update for next council meeting
No
on
problem.
this issue, please. Thank you.
We won't have it for next council meeting, but we working on it.
I can just give a status.
Yeah.
I'll give a status update. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay. And I don't think I have any questions for you.
All right.
So,
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
no
Can I hear a
problem.
motion on the item?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion made by Councilman Galvin to approve the item at tab F. The motion was seconded by Councilwoman Estime Irvin. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item passes with a 5-0 vote. Tab H, proposed resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, approving the city administration's competitive selection of Pinnacle A Roofing Company as the lowest responsible contractor to perform a roof replacement at the Museum of Contemporary Art, MoCA, in accordance with the terms, conditions, and specifications contained in invitation for bids number 64-18-19, further authorizing the interim city manager and city attorney to negotiate and execute an agreement for the provision of services for an amount not to exceed $628,946, providing for an effective date and for all other purposes. This item was pulled from the January 28, 2020 council meeting, tab H.
Once again, Alberto Estrada, Purchasing Director. The item that you have before you under tab H represents the results of solicitation number 64-18-19, issued by the Purchasing Department to request bids from qualified and experienced contractors for the roof replacement project at the Museum of Contemporary Art, otherwise known as MoCA. As reflected in the council report, on November 27th, 5 sealed bids received by the city clerk's office were opened, and the results of the bid proposals can be seen on the second page of your report. Based on staff's review and evaluation of the submitted bids and the experience and qualifications of each one of the firms, Pinnacle A Roofing Company is deemed to be the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. The proposed bid award is for a not-to-exceed amount of $628,946, and it has an anticipated completion timeline of 120 days from issuance of notice to proceed. Here with me in support of this item is MoCA's Director of Operations, Mr. Thomas J. Black, as well as, once again, the city's Capital Projects Manager, Mr. Jeff Geimer, and also a representative from Pinnacle Roofing. If you have any questions, we'll be glad to take them. Thank you.
Now let's open it to the public. Public hearing is open. On tab H.
Veronica Guzman, 540 Northwest 127th Street. I just had a question regarding the warranty on this roof, if any was going to be provided, and how long was that warranty going to be for?
It's going to be a 20-year.
Can you
Hi, my name is Albert Crave. I'll be the project manager for this job. The warranty for this job will be a 20-year manufacturer's warranty from FiberTite.
Thank you very much. Public hearing is still open. On tab H. Public hearing is now closed. Any question on the dais?
Move approval?
Second.
I have a motion made by Councilman Galvin to approve the item at tab H. The motion was seconded by Councilwoman Keys. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The item passes with a 5-0 vote.
Thank you.
Tab I, proposed ordinance, second reading of the Mayor and City Council of the City of North Miami, Florida, amending Chapter 2 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of North Miami entitled Administration, Article 3 entitled Boards, Committees, Commissions to establish the North Miami Youth Council, providing for repeal, conflict, severability, codification, and for an effective date. Tab I.
Move approval?
Second.
Public hearing is open on tab I.
Sorry, I apologize.
No, that's fine. You can keep it. We're just going to open it to the public. Public hearing is open on tab I. Public hearing is now closed. Madam Clerk.
I have a motion made by Councilman Galvin to approve the item at tab I. The motion was seconded by Councilwoman Estime Irvin. Councilwoman Keys, how do you vote?
Yes.
Can you say that?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Desame, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilwoman Estime Irvin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilman Galvin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Bieneme, how do you vote?
Yes.
The item passes with a 5-0 vote.
Thank you.
Tab J, proposed ordinance, second reading of the Mayor and City Council of the City of North Miami, Florida, amending Chapter 2 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of North Miami entitled Administration, Article 3 entitled Boards, Committees, Commissions, specifically at Division 1 in general, to require that all city advisory boards and committees be reviewed every year to determine if there is a need or desire to retain them, parentheses sunset review, providing for repeal, conflict, severability, codification, and for an effective date. Tab J.
Thank you very much. Tab. It's second reading. Go ahead.
This is an ordinance that's sponsored by Councilwoman Carol Keys.
I don't think I sponsored
No?
that.
All right. I don't know. It says you sponsored
I
it.
did not.
The
Okay,
former city administration sponsored, the former manager did the last presentation. Essentially, this is an ordinance that requires that beginning calendar year 2021, the administration would review all of the boards by February 1st of each year, and then by March 15th of each year, make a recommendation to the council on whether the board should be sunsetted or not. And then during the month of April of each year, there'll be presentations by each board chairperson to the council on the activities of that board.
Thank you very much. Public hearing is open on tab J. Public hearing is now closed.
Move
You
for
have any
approval.
motion?
Yeah, I don't think I was down for the sponsorship, the first reading, so I really didn't sponsor it, so.
Should we table it?
So-
Since
No,
I
no.
move,
No,
yeah.
it's a-
It was an error. It was city administration.
Oh.
City,
So
I mean,
move to
I wouldn't pull
approve?
it.
Second?
Any question, Vice Mayor?
No, I'm good.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk.
I have a motion made by Councilwoman Estime Irvin to approve the item at tab J. The motion was seconded by Councilman Galvin. Councilman Galvin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Desame, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilwoman Keys, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilwoman Estime Irvin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Bieneme, how do you vote?
Yes.
The item passes with a 5-0 vote. Tab K, Proposed Ordinance, First Reading of the Mayor and City Council of the City of North Miami, Florida, amending Chapter 5 of the Code of Ordinances entitled Building Standards and Regulations. Article 1, in general, specifically at Section 5-2, to add a definition for board-up materials, and Article 3, storm shutters, specifically at Section 5-9, entitled Storm Shutters Placement. By removing Section 3 and 4 and allowing for clarification of removal of board-up materials and their use, providing for repeal, conflict, severability, codification, and an effective date. This item was pulled from the January 28th, 2020 council meeting. This is tab K.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Crystal Patterson with the Code, that still sounds so weird. Crystal Patterson with the Code Compliance Department. This is pertaining to a text amendment to Chapter 5, Section 9 of the city's Code of Ordinances titled Storm Shutter Placement. At the conclusion of 2019's hurricane season, it was discovered that there were conflicts primarily with subsections 3 and 4. Subsection 3 is an exemption allowing for owner-occupants to register their home with the police department if no person would be occupying the property in excess of 5 business days. The city's land development regulations, Section 5-1601, however, states that windows may be covered or boarded up in accordance with a building permit for a period not exceeding 6 months. Staff's recommendation is to eliminate subsection 3 in its entirety from Chapter 5-9. Additionally, the recommendation is to eliminate subsection 4 of 5-9 as it allows for homes to be completely boarded up provided there are 2 means of ingress or egress, ultimately conflicting with the Florida Building Code, which states storm shutters are only allowable during the threat of a storm. And the long-term use of storm shutters and any board-ups do present a life and safety hazard and thereby shouldn't be used as any repair for a broken window or as an alternative for a security system by any means. The other changes to the ordinance include the term board-up, which was added to the section, and the requirement for storm shutters and board-ups to be removed no later than 72 hours after the dissipation of any officially declared tropical storm warning, hurricane warning, or hurricane. And I'm available for any questions.
Actually, if I may add, during briefings, I believe with the briefings with Vice Mayor and briefing with Councilwoman Keys, you asked me the term, and I think I misspoke and said it was 15 days. That was based on a prior conversation we had together where you had asked to move it to 15 days. Later, we learned that 15 days, if we had changed it to 15 days, would have been a conflict with the Florida Building Code. So that was never changed to the 15 days. So I want to make sure that that's clear. So it is still, the ordinance still reads 72 hours or 3 days after the end of a weather condition.
Thank you very much. Let's open it to the public. Public hearing is open on tab. Tab K. Public hearing is now closed.
Move
Member Abdullah.
approval.
Second.
Go ahead.
Second for discussion.
Go ahead.
So, I have a problem with the storm shutter ordinance. I don't have a solution, but, we've got seniors in the city, we have people like snowbirds, and, I see shutters, they're not always so nice. The wood shutters on there that are just up there are a blight on our neighborhoods. On the other hand, hurricanes coming, people go away for the summer, they want to get ready, they're going away for a month, they want to put their shutters up because they can't come back, so now they're in violation, or they have to evacuate because there's a hurricane, they don't come back in time, now they're in violation. And like I said, I know in my house, we put them on the side for the season. You've got seniors who, number one, have to pay people, they can't put up the shutters themselves, and to have them going up and down all season is really a hardship. So I don't have a solution, but I'm not in favor of it, so.
Thank you very much.
I have no questions.
Madam Clerk.
I have a motion made by Councilman Galvin to approve the item at tab K. The motion was seconded by Councilwoman Keys. Councilwoman Estime Irvin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Desame, how do you vote?
He's not here.
Councilwoman Keys, how do you vote?
No.
Councilman Galvin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Bieneme, how do you vote?
Yes.
We'll wait for Vice Mayor Desame to come back before we call the vote, but
He passed, and then
but it
we wait
passes,
to
yes.
record his vote. Okay.
So we'll record his vote after.
Thank you.
Tab L.
Here he is.
Vice Mayor Desame, how do you vote on tab K?
Which item is this?
The share.
This is,
No.
the item passes with a 3-2 vote. Tab L, proposed ordinance, first reading of the mayor and city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, amending chapter 11 of the city of North Miami Code of Ordinance entitled Licenses and Business Regulations to establish Article 12, prohibition on distribution, sale, or use of plastic beverage straws, to prohibit the distribution of plastic beverage straws to reduce waste, providing for penalties, providing for inclusion in the code of the city of North Miami, and providing for an effective date. Tab L.
Public hearing is open on tab L. Public hearing is now closed. Do you have any question on the dais?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
But I didn't hear. Can you come? Whoever wanna come.
Hi, I'm Laura Hill, 13075 Griffin Boulevard. I want to thank Carol Keys, Councilwoman Carol Keys, for bringing this up. We're a waterway community, and I think the single-use plastics has been very common to see. Municipalities are starting to fight them. I think that we could even expand on this. If a straw is going to become a microplastic, so is a fork and a spoon and a knife. So maybe we could also expand to bring single-use plastics, a ban altogether on them within the city municipality, like we've done with styrofoam and like we've done with pesticide, and really lead the way environmentally in the city of North Miami. So again, thank you so much. It's so nice to see this kind of legislation happening, so thank you.
A quick question, Mr. Attorney. You're gonna penalize the restaurants who didn't do the switch, no?
Yes.
Yes, so the difference between this ordinance and other ordinances that we've done, the other ordinances that was just referred to are ordinances that prohibit the city's use of those items. This would be a ban on use of straws by businesses throughout the city. So I think the ordinance as it speaks right now says that we would do an education campaign, but eventually, yes, at some point, businesses could be cited for use of straws, plastic straws.
What they need to use?
I mean, there are alternatives. There are non-plastic alternatives such as the.
Isn't it
codes.
more expensive?
I don't know, sir.
But before what will be the penalty?
The penalties would have to be stated in Chapter 21. Chapter 21 doesn't speak to plastic straws right now. So if you approve this, then there would be another ordinance that comes back amending Chapter 21 to add this as a penalty. The penalties in Chapter 21 range from, I believe, $100 up to $500. It currently is what our fines
But we
are.
gotta find out if the carton is not more expensive to the restaurant before we remove that. Go ahead.
Sure. Mr. Mayor, through you to the city attorney, there's preemption laws that preempt us from doing this. Am I mistaken?
Actually, the preemption laws affect things like what's the other thing? I forget what it is. The other plastics.
Single-use?
Single-use plastics and the styrofoam. This particular item, the governor vetoed. The legislature tried to pass a preemption. The legislature vetoed it, which is why we're able to pass one banning it throughout the city.
So do you have any idea? I know there's an overall sweeping preemption bill that the state is considering right now that would overturn even our ban on Airbnbs. If we pass this tonight, will it be overturned if and when that?
I haven't seen that legislation, sir, so I don't know.
I want to vote yes. I'm just really concerned that we don't have much. I'm not all down for symbolic stuff if it's just going to be thrown out the
typically,
window.
and to speak to what you're saying, typically what's happened, and you've seen it in other areas of our code, if we pass it, typically what the legislature will say is, from some date forward, it's grandfathered in. So if we want this in the future, then we would have to do it now. If we wait later on, then
Gotcha.
we'd
That's what we
probably
did with Airbnb. But take a look at what's coming down the pike with preemption. It would go back and wipe out the city of Miami Beach loses theirs, we lose ours. Everything that we've done in the face of preemption is automatically reverted back to the state. So I'm going to vote yes tonight, but this is about to be just overturned by the state in a couple weeks anyway. So, and I agree with the mayor, we need to have a little bit more idea of what the penalties will be, how we're going to enforce it. Are we going to have a code inspector running around restaurant to restaurant, see if they're using a plastic or biodegradable paper straw, metal straws? Right, there are options out there, but you follow what I'm saying. If we're going to put this in law and then say we're going to fine people, what's going to happen is residents are going to go to Flanagan's and go, aha, Flanagan's used a plastic straw, Starbucks used a straw. And no, but I know how this all plays out. It always plays out the same way. And by the way, Starbucks is a major national corporation. I mean, we're going to shut down Starbucks. We're going to fine Starbucks. How much are we going to fine Starbucks?
The city's in plastic.
Can I?
Yeah. But you follow what I'm saying? I mean, the lid is being ripped off of Pandora's box, and I get where everybody's coming from, and I like the intent. But we need to have a really quick interpretation of whether or not this is going to survive preemption, and then if it is, what kind of structure of penalties will we be putting in place?
Again, the preemption, I don't know. I mean, it all depends on what the
Your city
legislature
attorney,
passes.
though, I'm telling you right now.
Understand, if they haven't passed it yet, I can't tell you what the effect is. And then in terms of the fines, you all will decide what that is. So it'll come back to you, and you decide if it's a $50 fine or
I'm going to quit
$500
looking at you. I'm going to look at the maker of the motion. I love the intent. I don't think this is any good 6 weeks from now.
Well, I'm hoping it is.
And hopefully it is, but then we need to have a serious conversation about what the penalties and the enforcement will be, because if we just leave it loosey-goosey.
Are we going to subsidize the restaurants?
That's what I want.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
I've been trying, since they allowed this since July this summer, I've been waiting to get these particular ordinances on the books. We've been very careful because I've been along with our attorney, very careful not to open us up to lawsuits. There are many other cities in Dade County. North Miami Beach has already passed the no straw. They're already serving paper straws. I had suggested to give a time period to our vendors, not to say, okay, tomorrow, no more plastic. Let them use their inventory, give them a couple months to find a vendor that they can use and go to. And I said we need to start. I mean, I would like to start no styrofoam, no single use. I know that's going to be impossible, but I see that straws are there, and I think I don't think we're going to lose this law. Mr. Mayor, I mean, I can't see us going backwards.
We're going backwards on a lot of stuff in this country.
Yes, we are. No question about it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My only concern is I think a lot of us, the previous environmental regulations that we had, and I think all of them are good, but we got to look at the whole picture. And although we want to throw all these wonderful environmental regulations, but we have to keep in mind some of the populations that we are dealing with. I mean, and we got to be honest with ourselves. We don't have the same business owners as Miami Beach and as some of the others. We have small mom and pop businesses who they don't even have a credit card machine. There's a lot of things, they go to Publix and get some different things. So a lot of things that they should have known because they opened up a business, a lot of them trying to find out how to get grants and different things. So I think this intent is good, but we have to look at the business corridor of the city. The chambers are having problem recruiting businesses. It's if you go on some of these corridors, you walk into these mom and pop stores, you'll be like, how did you? And some of them don't even have a license. I think if we wanna start somewhere and really be meaningful and getting, and these are some of the issues that we deal with, at least some of us on a monthly basis, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, is there's a lot of things that business owners should have known, but, either they don't know or they need to be a little bit more mindful of. So before I think I could say I'm 100%, behind this, we got to look at what Councilman Galvin mentioned, the legislature, what they are doing. And Mr. Attorney, I think our lobbyists in Tallahassee, we certainly have a couple of them, could kind of give us a little insight what is in the pipeline, what's going to happen, or what are they thinking about happening. But also locally, we need to assess our businesses to see if this going to close some businesses. Is this, what are we really saying that we're going to do without giving the support or the proper guidance for the businesses? So that's my little comment regarding this legislation. Thank you.
Question to you, Councilwoman Keys. You mentioned that when are you anticipating that penalty should go in effect?
Did we do something with that? I mean, I was even thinking like this summer, June 1st, July 1st, give people.
Of this June?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm not.
I mean, how long does it take for a business to use up their plastic straws and get new plastic straws?
If they don't sell them around, if it's not around.
We're not talking anything big. North Miami Beach is the same type of demographics, and they're doing it. And I'm going into restaurants. They are the same. They have the same mom and pop stores. I go into
But
restaurants.
they're not penalizing the people.
But
It's
that
a
is plenty of time
recommendation.
for them to find a vendor. I mean, I don't think because we have a few mom and pop stores that can't really afford to be there, we should penalize our environment and be a non-progressive city that practices environmental resiliency. And that's where I'm at. And I think we've got to start. I think every city along the coast needs to stop using the plastic straws and other plastic items. We would save millions of tons of plastic in our oceans. And I would like North Miami to be a progressive city, not, we have a couple stores that can't afford paper straws.
But we should be, I'm sorry, Councilwoman Keys, I mean, I understand and I understand the environment fight and I'm okay with it, but at the same time, we have to be sensitive to our minority businesses.
This is February. How long does it take to use your supply of plastic
well,
straws?
Everyone's financial everyone's financial situation is different, okay? And then if we're going to do something drastic like that, and which I don't have a huge issue, but with a short time frame, give the educational process some time for them to even understand and realize, and I'm still speaking, that, and I mean, I would be in favor of this if we could have not implement anything at least a year. Let the small businesses or whoever it is.
Do you think their small businesses really have a store of supplies for more than 6 months? If they can't afford to buy paper straws, then they're not sitting there with 6 months worth of supplies on anything. I think the summer is long enough.
I'd be in favor of supporting this if there's not well, anyway, we have to talk about the penalties would have to be a different ordinance, correct?
Yes, that's an amendment to Chapter 21.
But at the same time, if we pass this ordinance today and it goes into effect, nothing can really happen financially until we pass that ordinance, correct?
Correct, and as I said, the ordinance itself calls for an education period. It doesn't state what the education period is. You can give us that guidance if you'd like, but it does contemplate that there would be some education process.
I would like that the education.
This is a first reading. Can we come back on second
Why
reading?
don't we do
and
the
just put an
education?
effective date?
Why don't you educate them first, then if it doesn't work, then.
Yeah, because I think one of the point, it's not really the education. There are some businesses who are those big chain businesses like Starbucks that have accustomed to it. However, I beg to differ, and I'm saying if you walk in some of these businesses that we have, some of them are missing either EBTs and other licenses because either they don't know, and we have been advertising, we have been sending them notice through the clerk's office. So I don't know what outreach you would do differently to let a business know, hey, whatever that you are serving, you can't do this anymore. You just, this is, I know this sounds pretty good. Some cities have done it. I'm just looking at the layer of small businesses and our track record on calling outreach to anything that I could really support this in at this particular time.
Thank you very much. Are we done with Madam Clerk? If we're done with conversation,
Yes, I'll.
can I have a motion on the item?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion made by Councilwoman Keys to approve the item at tab L. The motion was seconded by Councilman Galvin. Councilwoman Estimate Irvin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilman Galvin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilwoman Keys, how do you vote?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Desame, how do you vote?
He's not here?
Oh. Mayor Bieneme, how do you vote?
No.
Okay. The item passes with a 3, but we will wait for Vice Mayor Desame to return.
Yeah, I want to state on the record that, I voted for it to go through, but I want to talk on second reading on how we can iron some things out to make sure that we are sensitive to the mom and pop businesses that would be affected by this change.
And I want to echo that. I'm gonna toss it back at the attorney's office. I'd like to have your opinion on whether or not this survives.
Vice Mayor Desame, how do you vote on tab L?
Sorry.
No.
And I would agree to that. If you think it's gonna come back, or if we need to hold it, we're not gonna make it effective, I guess, for a while and look at the time. But if it's gonna be a detrimental law that was gonna affect the rest of our laws, then I wouldn't wanna go forward with it either. Thank you, Councilman Galvin.
The item passes with a 3-2 vote. That concludes the agenda items.
Are we done with the agenda, Madam Clerk?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Mr.
Through you
yes, Mayor.
through you to Mr. Sori, as we get ready to begin Citizens Forum, I understand there's been a controversial item of some sort amongst park visitors at Cagney having to do with our Little League football, Optimus football program. This council is a little bit unaware of what it is, and I know I see an hour and a half worth of people in the back ready to talk about it. If, Mr. Mayor, if you feel it's okay, I'd like to ask staff, including the Parks Director, to give us a little bit of an overview of what the heck everybody's angry about.
If I may, Councilman Galvin, through the mayor, there's been some concerns regarding our agreement with the Optimist Club, North Miami Jaguars, with some of the participants in the program. I did have these things brought to my attention by as you guys did, through emails over the past week and a half. I did meet with the group on yesterday evening for an hour and a half to go over some of their concerns, and we did come to a conclusion. There's a lot of unanswered questions. We did come to a conclusion that they would allow me to work with them and review some of the documents and what's going on, and I have a follow-up meeting scheduled with them for next Tuesday. So I would, there's a lot for me and my staff to go over with these individuals. I would definitely not try to prevent anybody from coming up speaking during a public forum, but I would like to, if you guys do definitely want the Parks Director to come up, but I would
Did you
ask,
speak to both parties?
I did speak to both parties, yes, sir. I would ask and I'm working on a resolution or getting to the bottom of everything that's happened. So I would like the liberty of having until next week, Tuesday, for my follow-up meeting after I have all of the facts and all of the documentation that's needed. So I would ask, that the council do give me that right, as the problems were brought to me at the same time they were brought to you, and I did immediately set up a meeting at their first availability, which was yesterday evening. I would just ask that we push this back a week.
No, as far as the administration, we do understand that, but if they are here
If they wanna speak,
and they
yeah.
feel like they want to speak on the item.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask the Parks Director to come forward and give us his summation, if that's okay. I've also heard allegations of fights and police reports filed. I'd also like to hear from the police department whether or not they do have things on file. I'd like us to get all these things out in the open before we open, because then we're going to have an hour and a half of people saying, he punched him and they jumped the fence and there was a police report. And if there's no police report, we need to put that to bed. If the Parks Director doesn't have a handle on this situation or has some other ideas, we need to know that ahead of time. But the rest of the audience is going to sit here going, what are they all talking about? And I hear that you want another week, but we've got 3 minutes before this gets opened right now, so.
Did you meet with both parties?
I've talked to both parties, yes, sir.
Okay.
There is several items that need to be followed up on, in addition to the police report that was not with our city. So I'm gonna look into it and get the report from the city it was filed in. But yeah, if you want to hear from the Parks Director to describe the what's going on here, but I would strongly go against that, and I would like I say, the opportunity to fix the problem and work on the problem. I did just hear about it at the same time you guys received the emails, and there'll be really a lot of unanswered questions going through tonight also, just a bunch of allegations from different sides.
I'm going to be asking each person who comes to the microphone, whether it's during the discussion or after, we've had several people email council members, and I'm down for that. I'm glad they did. I'm going to ask who it was that directed them to email us, because I'm curious as to how so many people moved in concert and had email addresses and things like that. I'd like to know who it was that directed them, because I've heard rumors as to it being a certain staff member. So I'm going to be blunt. We're ripping this bandage off, and we're going to bleed for the next hour and a half.
Because, and me, I've said, my son been playing for football with the Optimist Club for 3 or 4 years, and that's when I've been on the field either from Claude Pepper Park to Cagney. That's when I've been around, and there's a lot of things that people are saying that I'm not aware of it. And like my son play right now for St. Thomas, but he still goes and hang out with those kids and helping them out. That's mean he had a great experience with the Optimist Club over there. That's been, I don't know if, that's why I would like the administration to speak with both parties, parents, and see exactly what it is, if we can fix it, or even having a workshop and where you can hear from the parents, from the club, and if it's something that needs to be fixed, we fix it. If it cannot be fixed, a decision needs to be made by the administration, and that's how I understand that. That's when nobody will be 100% satisfied. I pay $100 for my son. He get equipment, helmet, and a coach for over almost food and field trip and things like that. He went and play and travel elsewhere, and it was a good experience. But not every parent had the same experience, and I do understand that, and that need to be addressed. And as far as the city have multiple programs. Like they have soccer, they have baseball, they have other swimming and other activities. But sometimes I see 2 or 3 kids, and this is the only program in the city where you can see 100 of parents and kids together. You can see 200 kids playing football on a field, and all the city programs have 2, 3 people, 4, 5 people. That's mean they find a way to recruit a lot of kids. I don't know how did where they're coming from, but that's when if there's things that need to be adjusted, we do understand that for $100 and get all that, and those coaches, they're not getting paid. It's volunteers. That's mean and helping out. The city doesn't pay them, and it's try to help the kids. And there's things that I hear. We see that everywhere, even in the best team. We hear those things, but the administration need to be more vigilant to making sure that the kids are protected. And if they goes then to play football, and they go and play football, but in the long run, for me, it's a good program for my son. That's mean, if there's something that's need to be done, we need to do it, because those coaches are not getting paid by the city. They're just volunteer. If you feel like you're paying $100, you're not satisfied, there is multiple optimist club and things like that, or if we can fix it, we're gonna fix it. We need to understand that it's a family. We're playing sports. That means you may satisfy, you may not, but don't expect to go elsewhere and you're gonna pay $100. You're gonna find helmet, you're gonna find equipment, you're gonna find snack, you're gonna find lunch, free food, and all those things, and your kid's gonna travel from here to all the way to Miramar to Kendall and all those things for $100 for a season. That's when it's not that easy. You need to understand that part too. And on the city side, the city need to do a better job on recruiting. And when you go to Sasopol, you only have 2 kids there. When you go to soccer, you have only the private organization was able to recruit people. On the city side, just a few people. That means they are doing something that need to be appreciated when you can see 200 people on the field. We need to take that in consideration. You guys going to say something?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I think everyone in the audience should know that we are going to, let you speak. Nobody's really silencing or, tell you not to speak. However, I want to thank Councilman Galvin for bringing the issue up, because it's something that last week we started getting emails, and immediately we all up here are public servant, and we've been involved in this political process in a long time, so we know when something is cohort or when someone is directing folks to do stuff. And I prayed for those who sent emails without knowing the full information or one thing, because I later find out, and I think there's a historical chronicle thing which I don't think we need to get into, which has nothing to do, and I'm gonna say it has absolutely nothing to do with any of the issues that I think we received last week. And whatever happens with previous administration, with the former manager, I think it's something that's embarrassing to the city, that I don't think tonight and none of the council knows of the details, and I will not get into the details tonight. But again, last week I received, along with all of the other elected officials, some emails about some complaints, which myself was the first time I saw those emails or even heard of the issue. So when I asked the manager did not know either. So we looked at one another, said, what's going on? And I think the folks that was writing the emails, whoever was instructing them, was probably telling them that we knew something about their issues, which had I think last week was the first time where we first got the first email. And I would like to hear from the other folks that did send me emails, and some folks were very cordial, and I try to be cordial as well, and some were not. They were threatening elected officials, adding some, other stuff, races, and in the email, which was not, because we didn't know what they were talking or what the emails were relating to. However, I would reserve any comments after because I don't know what the manager was, done, because I asked everyone who wrote me an email to speak to the manager, because we do have a chain of command on how things happen on, the process. But the other thing that I'm going to say also, when you email an elected official, you should try to email us privately regarding an issue. When you email all of us in there could be some criminal trouble if we reply or we kind of have this conversation, because there's something which I aware the people that was emailing probably did not know, and I didn't want to get into that discussion with them, that you cannot email all of us together. You could email us separately, and if somebody wanted to meet up or discuss something, I think that could have been arranged, because I think all of us here have an open door policy, but some of the emails, the way it came in, nobody knew what was being discussed in the emails. We were just literally first time hearing of those particular issues, and administration didn't know either. And we could not, well, at least me, because some of them were addressed to me personally, which I don't even know how that came about, but I replied back saying, please, if you have an issue, email me separately, because I cannot communicate with them, because I knew this was coming up somehow. But I had directed the city manager to meet with whoever was sending the emails, and I think all of us up here asked the manager to meet with the folks and find out what are the issues, because I think a lot of the issues were under the assumption, or whoever told them to write the email, that we knew of the issues, which we had no idea. In administration, I don't know if they had, well, at least they told me they didn't have any ideas of what was happening when we received those emails. So again, if we want to go down, that particular path, but I think we should, with the manager, I think that's probably the right approach to whatever the agreement is with whatever issues that whoever had the concern resolve those issues, and then we will move forward and address other issues which had absolutely, again, nothing to do with whatever was emailed to us, including the manager and including the last manager, because that was the last time or the first time we, the council and the administration, heard of that concern that you had, that you were putting to us, like we should have known, or we did know, or we did, I don't know what, and so I'm kind of glad to get some clarification tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now it's Citizen Forum. Anyone wish to speak, please come to the mic.
Just a reminder, we do have 2 podiums. When you are ready to speak, please state your name and your address for the record. Please speak into the mic.
William Pervitel, 11950 North Bay Shore Drive. Usually when I come to the podium and I have a concern, I usually come with some sort of answer or some attempt at an answer. Tonight I have a concern that's more of a national concern that I think affects our community, which is beloved in its diversity, yet extremely vulnerable. A couple of years ago, I lost a dear friend who had grown up in Nazi Germany. And before he passed away, he said how things looked so very familiar to him of when he had been growing up, and the very memorable time. And to quote Churchill, who quoted Santayana, those who fail to learn the lessons of history are deemed to repeat them. A little point in history to tie into what happened since we had our last council meeting, and that was just a couple weeks ago. In 1933, in Germany, there was an event called the Night of the Long Knives, where information was fabricated on the part of secretary members, and therefore to incriminate certain people And there was a purge of which 85 to maybe 200 people died. And that went on for 3 days or so. And in repeating history, or preceding history, on the day after that, after all these people had been slaughtered somewhat innocently on fabricated information of them being homosexuals or undermining the government, fabricated by the person who perpetuated this and his cronies, the Reichstag, their parliament, legislated that that act be legal. That their legislation got together and said, hey, that's okay. That's 1933, well before concentration camps, even though we have those now for immigrants. Well before extermination camps, way before an invasion of another country. But this is going on now, and it's a new reality since our last time we met here. We are now not on a slippery slope, but we're now on the slope of what is essentially a fascist dictatorship, and I don't see that lightly. Please look up everything you want about fascism, about dictatorships, about authoritarianism, about the history, and you'll see how we are on that slope. And the media doesn't really want to bring it out that way because it sounds too alarmist. My point is that we live in a very vulnerable community. And if we don't do something, I don't know what we can do, but we're very vulnerable. We have a racist, narcissist, misogynist, homophobic leader, and we have to protect ourselves and our citizens. And I hope that we do that every meeting, every day, as best as possible.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Republican. Jessica Alston, 1140 Northwest 125 Street in Sunkist Grove. First, I would like to thank Carol Keys for her donation of 1 bike and Madam Clerk for 5. We will be presenting the bikes next meeting, the 24th. I stand to ask for time on the agenda for the presentation of these bikes because the parent and children will have to be here in order to receive them at that time. This is the project that's involving Benjamin Franklin K-8 Center for their oratorical contest and their writing contest. So please be so advised. Everyone else who wanted to donate and give, thank you so, so much. We have more than we need, and I'll tap you the next time. So thank you, thank you, thank you, but we have what we need. Secondly, given the coronavirus crisis in China, I want to stand and request, demand a freeze on all Chinatown initiatives or attempts to bring anything relating to that here to North Miami because of the worldwide health crisis. Then the Red Garden fiasco was awful. We were promised a complete and total financial disclosure of the Red Garden operations, which we haven't heard yet, which would include the valet parking, overtime for police, et cetera, et cetera. Neighbors, you can look on Facebook. There is a new page up, X Red Garden on Facebook, where you will see pictures of what 7th Avenue looked like. What 7th Avenue looked like during this Red Garden event. The statue of that woman is misogynistic in nature, is demeaning to our community, and there needs to be a change done with that. This is what happens when you do things without involving. Yeah, you don't know. I know you don't know because you didn't ask. That's why you don't know, because you didn't ask. Not involving, it didn't involve any kind of contribution from the community. There are pictures there that show the 1 tent that remains on the property that received $700,000 of funding. And additionally, the funding, I lost my train of thought, wasted the, what is it? Oh, and the $8,000 a month lease agreement for 15 years that this Red Garden fiasco curse is upon us.
Thank you very much.
I object to it. I feel that the city needs to readdress it
Thank you very
and
much.
do something about it.
Thank you very much. Public hearing still open.
Veronica Guzman, 540 Northwest 127th Street. Following up on that Red Garden fiasco also, I live 6 blocks away. The highway divides me and this event, and I could still hear the music with impact windows. So I would appreciate going forward, if there are events planned, that they do take into consideration the residents that live around there, because it was between the traffic and the noise, it was horrendous. I do want to know if we even met, you know, and recouped our money or our costs for this event, and what events are going to be planned going forward to cover this $8,000 a month payment that we're on the hook for. Also, I did want to say that I was pleased with the presentation for the Cagney Park. I have been to several parks that they have built, and they did take into consideration the community. I did want to clarify if the amounts that are shown in these tab items, is that included in the $7 million budget that they're using towards building this park? Okay, and that's it. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. Kevin Burns, 2065 Alameda Drive. I just try to pull attention to, we're doing a lot of work in the parks. We're big on building Cagney Park, just doing a lot of efforts, a lot of good things in the parks. But I had the opportunity to go through Enchanted Forest about 2 weeks ago, and that park is again in a crisis. When I was sitting up there, it came to our attention about the potato vines taking over the oak trees. If you go through there now, it is worse than it was when we initially attacked it 10 years ago. That's the only park in the city that has the oak tree coverage that it does. And not only does it affect the oak trees within that park, that canopy, it's creeping into the neighbors to the north's yards also. I noticed in the budget, or the Parks Department's budget, there is no money to help with the what's called the potato vine eradication. We spent close to $100,000 10 years ago to fight that, and it took 6 months of somebody or a crew being in there day in and day out. It's a serious problem, and if you want to keep Enchanted Forest, and if you want to keep those native oak trees that are 75, 80, 100 years old in there, if you want to do it, we're going to have to address it. And I'm, again, just bringing it up, making a comment about it, because if you just look at the basic grounds and the horse barn and all that other great stuff going on out there, it looks really great. But when you look and get back into the trees, we have a serious problem there again. And I know when I was on the council that we addressed it, but I just wanted to bring it forward because that's money well spent to preserve our park, and if we lose that park, we're in trouble. Thank you.
Mayor Burns, the chemicals we used 10 years ago we're prohibited from using now.
Yeah, I understand most of it is you got to pull by hand. That was one of the biggest issues we had, is that if you just cut it, it grows right back. Yeah. You literally, it's labor intense having to dig in there and pull them out by hand because, like you said, the chemicals and so forth are different issues that affect the park, but it's a very labor-intense situation out there.
I live in one of those streets to the north. I know all about these dang potato vines.
So we'll get your backing on that. Thank you very much.
Good evening, council members, vice mayor. My name is Tanika Jones, and I am not a resident of the city of North Miami. However, I just wanted to speak on behalf of the North Miami Jaguars youth football and cheer program. My husband, Lawrence Jones, is the president of that organization, and the organization is specifically requesting information about the nature of the claims or the allegations that have been raised and presented to the council members. The organization, has not been made aware of the nature of those claims and allegations, and so in all fairness to all parties involved, they deserve to know exactly what is being stated against them, what they are being accused of doing, so that they can prepare to meet those allegations and those claims. And at that time, we would ask that we be given an opportunity to do that. And for anyone who wishes to speak in support of the city of North Miami and the North Miami Jaguars Youth Football and Cheer Organization, that they be allowed to do that as well. We are here today to do that because we weren't we didn't know if that issue was going to be brought up, but since it will not be addressed at this meeting, we just respectfully ask for time to be able to be made aware of those allegations, whatever the complaints were, just get it all out in the open so that we can go ahead and prepare to address them and present whatever evidence that we have to rebut them. So thank you for allowing me that time to ask that, and we trust that you guys will look into it fully, and we will see how it all works out. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Judy Brown, 1100 Northwest 128 Terrace in Sunkist Grove. I'm coming to talk about the Red Garden. At the last council meeting, the mayor stated, can't remember exactly, but he said in essence he hoped that the event would actually pay for itself. And when we come back to this meeting, we were supposed to have some type of update as to, did we break even? Did we go in the red with this event? Or what happened? But we have not gotten any information. I don't know if it's coming forth or what's going on, but I would ask that as a citizen, we should be updated as to, did we make a profit off of that? And the mayor spoke about the other parks programs not having people there, and you go to Sasso Pool and there are 2 or 3 people. Yes, because if you go to Sasso Pool and you look at that pool, it is the lockers from 1960. And every time we have tried to get that pool renovated, somehow the money is diverted, you know, and you put, well, yeah, you're gonna do some cosmetic stuff around the pool. But kids wanna have a place that wanna go to that's inviting. I looked at the drawings for Cagney. That's beautiful. Kids are gonna come and swim and enjoy that. But they do not enjoy, you know, the facilities there, because just look at it. It's not inviting. Red Gardens, traffic on 7th Avenue. I would like to thank the Miami Police Department, because from what I understand, I didn't hear of anybody getting killed or shot during this event. It was horrendous. I did talk to my council person. I asked him, he was out of town on an event, the police, when they come back in town, to go over and just ride through. I did go through and talk to several business people on the street. Their businesses, some of them had to close. Some of them said it wasn't fair because they had licenses. Other people pitched tents, made money, open drinking out of containers. It was just too much. It was just what we had said, the traffic for that space was just too much. Going forth, I just hope that, I don't know, I just feel like whoever did this, they'll put a curse on the city to spend $8,000 a month, to lease this property, $96,000 a year. And what are we gonna get from it? That is just money that we could have actually put in programs for our children, especially during the summer. And we have our libraries and things that are suffering. Kids need books and things like that. We really need to stop and think about what we are doing with the money. We are taxpayers, and we are not really doing this wisely. Thank you.
Public hearing is still open. Public hearing is now closed. Any council report?
Yeah, I was not going to bring up a report, but Mayor Burns spoke about the potato plants, which I did not realize was an issue. I'll make an announcement that March 21st, the Native Plant Society is going to have a Native Plant Day at the Enchanted Forest Park, and possibly we can get up a group of people, maybe the native plant people. I'm going to look into it, and maybe we can get a army on March 21st and do a little bit of damage to those potato plants. So thank you
But
for
we
bringing
cannot,
that up.
the enchanted forest, we do understand that, but we cannot bring anybody who say they know about native plant and they just
Well,
go
there's already
and
an
do
event
whatever
that-
they want there. We need to bring expert, not just
we've done that.
anybody bring people over there and then instead of helping and they destroy
Well, we would have
the
somebody
forest.
guiding the people and the volunteers. These are the Native Plant Society.
But the person is an expert with a certificate on an arborist, or we cannot just bring someone and say,
Well,
I'm an expert and they just went and destroy
Well,
the
Lola there would
forest.
probably be able to direct the people as to what and how to get rid of some plants and do some labor. If not, you know, it's a thought, it's a start.
Councilman
No other
Galvin.
reports.
On the issue, the potato vine, right now is not the time to try to go hog wild and pull them down, because with the winter temperatures, the vines die and the potatoes drop. If you want to do anything, have crews go around and pick up the potatoes off the floor, because once spring comes in another couple months, then they'll start to grow like wild. With the concept of putting together a volunteer group to come pick up potatoes or pull vines or whatever, I've asked IT and the PIO, but have been told no. I'd like to have a calendar on my website that I have through the city, on my page, specifically geared toward volunteer opportunities for environmental issues. So whether it's a cleanup at Enchanted Forest, a canal cleanup along Snake Creek, I'm blanking on the name. Wherever there's an opportunity for people to be involved environmentally, I'd like to have a one-stop shop where people can go and check that out. So if I know that we don't quote-unquote sponsor all those events, which is why I'm told I can't do it. I still think it would be a great resource for the community to be able to, to know what's going on environmentally. And then the last thing, to the parents with the Jaguar football situation, I hope you'll all find a way to work this out. I'm a product of the football programs of North Miami back when we had teams at Cagney and Pepper. I played Optimist football here, played for Gratney Elementary football team here, and it's a wonderful, wonderful program. And so whatever the problems are, I hope there's a way to work them out. Oh, last thing, Nomi Red Garden, fantastic. Fantastic. I was actually there, and it's fantastic. I applaud staff for pulling that off. My cell phone number, 305-582. Judy, I tried calling you after the last meeting. I didn't get a call back. 305-582-0710. Please call me. I'll be happy to share with you my feeling. But for once, the Northwest 7th Avenue Business District, which has been disregarded and left to junk, had something that brought thousands of people to our area spending money and having a good time. So thank you to staff for doing a wonderful Nomi Gardens event. We heard you were outside.
No, she's done. Go ahead.
Yeah, Councilman Galvin, you on the fake page, so you got to get on the right Facebook page. I want to say to the residents and the folks who emailed me, I think I made a couple of comments earlier, and those who haven't. I have been in public service for over, oh my God, almost all of my life, at least half of it. And there was a lot of stuff that was emailed, and I know, and that's why I said I prayed for those who were emailed, because they were misguided and mistrust in the email, and we know where the source of, how they got to that, and I still don't know till this day how they got us involved in whatever that they were doing. But I do want to say this: everyone in North Miami, you may agree with me or disagree with me and have your different opinions, but you can't question, and I think all of us, the loyalty we had for children and for seniors. As you can see tonight, I was getting ready to, they were questioning me about stuff that I do for the seniors, and I'll do whatever I can. I'm not a rich person, but I, whatever that it takes to do. And I do the same for the kids. So my purpose in my life has been an educator. So when I saw people was emailing, don't know, never met these people, or don't know anything about, I've never even been to the park to see the team played. And I've been up here for the past, and they've invited me, I've been to the park on different subjects. So when I saw that folks who probably we know somebody directed them to threat elected officials to do other things, on issues that we don't know about. If there's allegations or there's things that you feel that's not right, we all are welcome to hear them, and us as elected officials, that's what we are here to do as policymakers, or if things are not done correctly. But however, there is a process of doing that, and I think all of us kind of figure out, some stuff that didn't look quite right. And when I talked to administration, they didn't have any ideas of what was going on either. And I think I've directed the managers to meet with whoever wants to meet or whoever have issues, because at the end of the day, we are here for the kids, and we are here to make sure that the city is protected in a way, because we are the steward of the city. So what I would say, anybody could meet with me on any issues. You don't have to say why. I think if one of the emails would say, Councilman DeSume, I just want to meet with you, that would have been fine, because a lot of people just meet with me, but it did not come like that. It was stated some stuff that I did not know about, and nobody, I guess they assumed that we knew about those allegations or things that were made, and we direct those folks to talk to staff, and I feel the same sentiment as my colleagues up here. Whatever the outcome will be, or however we resolve to whatever the concerns or the issues, which we will, I believe, because that's what we do. But when you are asked to do something, I do say, please refresh on or reflect on whomever is asking you to do, because as an educator, that's one of the things that I've always taught my students, is if somebody asks you to do something, question that motive in trying to find out why they asked you to do what they asked you to do. And it could be another parent, it could be another, somebody who knew somebody who asked, can you call these parents and ask them to do that? But to say it again, we didn't know and we don't know all of the issues except for what we heard in the emails. And if anybody else want to meet with me or any of the council person, that's something totally different. But the manager has met and spoke to both parties, and he's addressing that particular issue. And if somebody has a concern after that, then they could definitely come and talk to us about that. But I just wanted to make that clear, because a lot of the emails were directing to Vice Mayor Alex DeSume, and some specifically to other members of the council. So that's what I said. But as a public servant, that comes with the territory. We understand that, but do know that we are here to work for the community, to do the betterment. And that's why I said a lot of at the beginning of my remarks, a lot of the issues were misguided. And I knew from reading the emails, just like any other council folks knew, that a lot of you probably was misinformed or just told to do otherwise, and you were doing what you were told. But again, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I hope the manager work on those particular issues, and that's the end of my statement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilwoman Estimate Iovin.
Nothing really to report. Wishing everyone happy Valentine's Day weekend. And that's it. Looking forward to Cagney Park. Really excited about that. And I'm looking forward to the town hall meetings that we'll have in reference to that community outreach. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk.
Mayor, at the last meeting, Councilwoman Estimate Irvin wanted to make an appointment. We did not have the application at the time. At this time, we do have the application. I believe it is at the top of your binder. And so if the councilwoman would like, she can make a motion to appoint Ms. Rose Achong to the library board.
Please, I'd like to appoint Rosa Chunk to the library board.
Second.
I have a motion made by Councilwoman Estimate Irvin to appoint Rosa Chung to the library board. The motion was seconded by Mayor Bieneme. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The item passes 5-0.
Thank you.
In addition to that, as the councilwoman just mentioned, it is Valentine's Day weekend, and there's nothing better for a gift than a passport. And so, as always, y'all know what's coming. As always, the city clerk's office is open for passports from 8:15 a.m. to 2 p.m. Monday through Friday. In addition to that, I want to remind everybody about the importance of the census. We had a presentation earlier. If you did not catch it, I ask you to review it. It has all of the essential information that you need, and the staff that is actually working on the census is doing an incredible job in terms of community outreach and have a lot of things coming down the pipeline. So I encourage you all to participate in some way. Moreover, the city clerk's office has launched Know Me Votes, and essentially Know Me Votes is a push to encourage residents of the city of North Miami, people who love the city of North Miami, to register to vote. We know that the big election is in November. However, a lot of people do not realize that the presidential preference primary is actually coming up on March 17th. And the last day to register to vote or update your voter registration to participate in that election is actually February 18th. And so as of today, we have exactly 7 days left. I want to thank all of the residents who answered my call when it came to talking about this campaign, and I really thought it was important to get stakeholder input. And you as the residents are obviously the premier stakeholders. Some of you canceled your appointments or have to reschedule them and haven't rescheduled them. And some of you I still have yet to meet with respect to this topic, but anybody who wants to be part of the initiative, I do highly encourage you to reach out to me. And finally, earlier we did acknowledge Black History Month, and I remember reading an op-ed a few years ago where the writer had said that, you know, we can tell a lot about our nation by what we choose to remember and what we choose to forget. And 90 years ago, when this period of time was provided to us to commemorate and really think about the contributions of Black people in America, I think it was a way for us to be inspired and also filled with pride for the contributions that we've made. And in addition to that, we happen to romanticize history and really focus on celebrity figures in history. But I think that we would be remiss if we didn't use this time to also educate our future generations about the fact that us as individuals, regardless of how successful we are, will never be able to accomplish the change that we can accomplish when a community comes together. And so with that being said, I encourage you all to always hold on tight to the spirit of community. And that is it.
Thank you very much. City Attorney reports.
Yes, Mayor. I actually just gave Councilman Galvin and yourself the attorney's litigation report. I'd given it to everyone else that we'd met with this week. If there's any questions, we're actually always free to answer them. The report will be posted online for the public if they wish to see it. But if you have any questions, just let us know. Thank you.
City Manager.
I'd just like to thank both parties with the Optimist Club for allowing me to work with them throughout this week to come to a resolution and to get down to the core of the issues that have presented themselves. So I will work with them and report back to everyone on the status and exactly what's been going on. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you very much, and have a good
there a
night,
second?
everyone.
All in favor? All opposed?
Thank you very much. Have a good night.